You've been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector time. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hello everybody and welcome to Barcelona for round 4 of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. First of all, here on a Tuesday night. It is great to be back once again. For the second time, we're using the more historic layout of Barcelona. In recent years, we've gone back to a more open hairpin at turn 10, and we've done away with the chicane at turns 14 and 15. Instead, it's a fast final sector for just the second time in the Precision Racing League's GT3 Series history. And it's It's very pleasing to be here once again. Myself, Ian O'Leary, back after a week's absence, alongside Darragh Thacker once again for this round of the Championship. It could be a little bit difficult to overtake here tonight, Darragh. I think that much is true. However, it's going to be an enjoyable, flowing final sector, and I think these drivers are going to enjoy their evening as a result a little bit more than they might if they had to slow down for that final chicane.
Yeah, I know some people who call that chicane one of the worst things motorsport has ever done, so I think some of the drivers will be glad to not have that to worry about, and it might give us more overtaking opportunities down towards turn 1. We might see some action through turn 3 and 4. You can go side by side through their long flowing corners, kind of what we're likely to see next week at Interlagos, but I think this is going to be an interesting evening's worth of racing, and turn 1's going to be critical for these drivers.
Let's have a look at how they stand in the opening 3 rounds of the Championship. Of course, no drop round applied just yet. Jeff Coffold is leading the way by 6 points ahead of Tyler Graff, who told us earlier he's been feeling pretty sick all afternoon and still is, so we'll see how he goes today. Israel Osborne is only 14 points back in 3rd place ahead of Matt Scherf and Sully Saad. Just another couple of points back is Park Hillard, with Eric Terry Haag in 7th. William Venson, David Brusler 3rd, and Joshua Lewis round out the top 10. In the AM drivers standings, we have got Luke Davis first of all, 16 points ahead of Buck Hamilton. He added another 2 to his lead 1 week ago. Thomas Rep is in 3rd place, still looking to get to 100 points tonight with Ryan Chandler and Karsten Quint the rest of the top 5. Colin McKenzie is another couple of points back in 6th, with Robert Jeffries only another point back in 7th. Marshall Hurtado, Sam Smeltzer and Jeff Lubitsch round out the top 10. In the team standings, it's Lunatic Jelly who are leading by 30 points, ahead of Jeff Broken Wing Racing. SGE are in 3rd and 4th, with BNO Cartomania in 5th place. That's another of the Lunatic teams in 6th place. Another 4 points back to Mapworks with PLR Simsport, Solpec Parabola Racing and Bump and Run rounding out the top 10 of the team's standings. Before we go any further, of course, let's thank the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on airside products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end book boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Bookkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Madness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest or simply worst moments from your hobby up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Big thanks to all of those sponsors who make these broadcasts possible here each and every night on RaceSpotTV. 5 nights of racing per week here live from around 9 p.m. Eastern time, although we do go a little bit live, as you may have noticed, here on Tuesdays. Just over 6 minutes remaining in qualifying then. As I mentioned, we've only been here once before in the historic edition of the Catalunya circuit. It was Ray Dominguez who took pole that day with a 1 minute 40.9. It's safe to say the conditions are not as quick today. We're only at a 1:41.7 at the moment for William Fenton, the current pole sitter. We're not going to be seeing a new fastest time, and indeed we're not even going to get in this qualifying session down to the times that we started to see in the race last time we went racing here either. However, that doesn't really matter. They're just racing against themselves. The track conditions here is sort of late afternoon, if you like. No chance of rain over the course of 35 minutes, but it's late afternoon. It's 5:45. The only thing I'd be slightly concerned about, Darragh, is sun in your eyes, but given it's quite cloudy today in Sim, looks like the sunset won't provide a bit of a visual issue for the drivers today.
No, and they should be okay with the conditions as they are. Of course, not too warm either, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for the drivers, especially when you've got tyres to think about and keeping them in the window. So, despite the fact that we are on the Spanish coast, normally very warm in the summer, not going to be too balmy for our drivers here this evening, but still a lot to think about. A few of the drivers who are going to be looking to get some good results struggled a little bit last week at Indianapolis and looking to bounce back if they can. But it's good to see as well a few of the AM drivers mixing up inside the overall top 10 here.
Certainly is. We often get that in the Fixed Series, which is quite contrary to the Sprint Series. We're going to see a little bit later on. Good afternoon to everyone who's tuned in. I should say good evening, really, to everyone who's tuned in. Matt says he's here to cheer for RaceSpot's favourite driver, Jeff Coulthard. That's a vicious rumour about us having favourites. But anyway, he's the current series leader, of course, Coulthard. I can't actually see him in the fray as things stand. Either he's not got his time together just yet, or he's got, or he's not here at all. So there we go. Oh, he is here. Excuse me. He's 10th place, but a little bit further down than what you'd expect to see, really, from him so far. He's not even ahead of the leading AM driver as things stand, and maybe a bit of a concern, to be honest, given that this will be a bit of a track position heavy circuit. You don't want to be languishing down on the 5th row as the series leader.
You don't, and especially with Tyler Graf coming off a good run of form, winning last week at Indianapolis. He's up in P4 and only 6 points back coming into tonight. So Jeff, looking to try and keep hold of that championship lead, try and extend it, but at the moment this is not what you would want to be seeing right now, and still got a lot of time to find. Nearly 2/3 of a second, pretty much 2/3 of a second behind William Fenton, and we saw those two battle it out in the opening couple of rounds. So this will be a concern for Jeff Coulthard, but of course he still has time to put a better lap time on the board and get himself towards the top couple of rows, really.
In response to our criticism, Matt says let him cook, which seems to be the phrase, the modern phrase that the kids use when things are not going well. Anyway, Derek can tell me more about what, give me a bit more detail on that. What the kids say these days. Anyway, Dwyer Osborne makes his way through the final sector of this circuit. Just over half a second back. I mean, at the moment, it is a top two that are quite considerably ahead of the rest. William Fenton, I know you can't see the Kyle Colbert time at the moment, but I can tell you he's only a 10th and a half behind in second position as things stand. So those two have really run away. Dwyer Osborne is pushed back by Jeff Coulthard, who does go up to 4th place and onto the second row, so that's a bit better from him. Osborne looks to stay where he is, so it's still 6th for him. Worth mentioning, even though William Fenton is down in 9th in the series standings here, Dara, he has only been at 2 of the 3 rounds so far. Both of those rounds he was on the podium, so he's not to be counted out when this drop week gets applied.
Absolutely not, and considering that other drivers will have to drop a race at some point, he will come back into contention that way. The only concern for William Fenton is if drivers can turn up every week and be consistent, the likes that we've seen from Jeff Coulthard, Tyler Graf, he cannot afford any kind of slip-up, so he's going to have to be on it week after week. But William Fenton doing a very good job so far, being consistent where he can be, but we've seen it in other series, all the way through PRL over the past few seasons, particularly. A couple of drivers at the top end, they miss a race early on in the season, but you'll find them climbing up the order just by the virtue of gaining the points back. Other drivers having to drop the round, and that could be what we see from William Fenton this time round. He could kind of come through the bushes and up into title contention. Going to be interesting to see, but he'll definitely be looking for another win here tonight to try and really maybe stake his claim for a title fight here.
So sad won't be going any quicker on this lap by the looks of things. Just under a minute and a half remaining for him to find some time. Here's Jeff Coulthard again. He would be impressive if he could go faster in 2 consecutive laps here, but it looks like he is just setting himself he'd obviously not just set an 8-second lap time. That's obviously slightly erroneous. We will see him over the line one more time by things. Here's Ross Sortino, who I was going to say is on pole in AM, and he very nearly is, but Buck Hamilton goes quicker right at the very end, and it's Dwyer Osborne does as well. But more importantly for the AM standings, it's Hamilton who's gone to the top, and that is a very impressive late lap. Again, the AMs really do mix it up in the Fixed Series.
Then doing a very, very good job, Buck Hamilton, really putting a bit of distance between himself and Ross Sortino. So Sortino got a little bit of work to do, but he's coming around the final corner now. Can he do anything to try and put his name up with Buck Hamilton inside the top 7 overall? Let's see the number 20 running up to the line now. Can he find any more time? He can, and he's going to slot right behind Buck Hamilton, but 1/100th of a second between those two. They've got a comfortable gap back to David Morse, but that's going to be a pretty hefty fight for 7th and 8th and 1st and 2nd in the class.
Very close indeed. Very impressive indeed. Here is Lucas Nguyen in the Audi, the first of the Audis in the field, making his way around the final corner with mere seconds remaining in the session. Is he going any quickly enough? He's getting a bit of slipstream here towards the line. Well, it doesn't look like it's an improvement for Lucas Nguyen, I'm afraid, as the checkered flag now does wave, and the session will come to a close pretty shortly. There's nobody anywhere near the pole time of William Fenton, who's going any quicker at the moment, despite the time remaining. So that's going to be that by the looks of things, unless Lucas Nguyen continues it. Maybe he's going to continue on for the entirety of the lap here and try and beat Fenton. It's going to be pretty difficult from down in 13th. But anyway, here's Sully Sad. He's just driving around at a leisurely pace. He knows that he won't be improving here in this session either. It looks like our grid is set in this case, and the running order maybe for the first part of the race might be set here as well, because it could be one of those days where track position from this qualifying session means an awful lot.
Yeah, and it's going to be really quite important, I think, for drivers to get off the line very, very well indeed. Of course, with qualifying maybe not going as well for some of these drivers as they would have liked, they need to gain their positions early on. They cannot afford to sit and wait for a couple of laps and maybe go a little bit more conservative. They've got to be on it from the word go. Jeff Calford in P5 may want to gain a couple of spots. Tyler Graff as well in P6, like I mentioned, race winner last time out in Indianapolis, looking to get himself a little bit further up the order. But if you're Sully Sad, you're going to have to be careful, because Buck Hamilton and Ross Sortino are kind of in their own bubble, so getting through them is going to be tricky, even if he has the pace to do so. Brett Thurman and Andrew Trickett are going to be on his case, but I mean, as we've seen every single week so far this season, a big grid means that mistakes at the start could set you back 30-40 spaces.
That was Luke Christian in the 5 Porsche, by the way, coming over the line. Finished second at the Charlotte Roval, which he described afterwards as the least deserving second place he's ever received in his career. I don't want to say he was handed it by James O'Brien and a meatball flag. However, he may not have finished second without it, put it that way, although he still drove very well on his way. I believe that was his 100th PRL start. It was indeed his 100th PRL start, so this is 101st for Lou Christian, as Israel Osborne is in the final sector at the moment, a couple of seconds away from the previous best for himself. So with the checker flag waving, that really is going to be it for the session now. Nobody is improving, nobody is still going, and so the grid is set. There is a absolutely whopping 44 drivers who have set a time here, and possibly Sean Mulholland at the back end might well get himself onto the grid to make it 45 for this race. So this will be very, very interesting indeed as we get on with round 4 of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series here tonight. No chance of rain at 5:45 in the evening in the Spanish coast. However, warm temperatures instead. Let's go aboard with William Fenton and have a look at a pole lap here and just how much strain these GT cars are under at what I would describe as a circuit that doesn't traditionally suit them and their lack of aerodynamic downforce.
Yeah, and we're going to see what led him to top of the timesheets for the largest GT3 field that the PRL has ever seen at this circuit. So this is going to be a very good lap time, keeping it tight through turns 1 and 2 as well. You can see using a lot of that curb on the inside at turn 2 just to try and shorten off the corner. You can do that in the GT3. Some other machines won't be too kind for that kind of line, but it works for William Fenton, and he uses it to great effect. Turn 4, using all of that track on the outside, swinging the car back to the inside and letting it roll through the corner. You can see him drifting away from that apex as the corner opens up, but you're going to get back to the right-hand side to get down to turn 5. Difficult braking down here, isn't it? Because the track somewhat falls away from you, particularly on the left-hand side, which is where you're trying to turn the car. But William Fenton doing a very good job. Turns 7 and 8 here, though, Ewan. Arguably 2 of the hardest corners on the racetrack to get right, with that sausage curb on the exit, and William Fenton just about avoiding it there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's impressing me about this pole lap initially as well is the not getting distracted by lap traffic here. He's of course going to benefit from a slipstream, but the benefit, I would say, is outweighed by the negative of having the Porsche distracting you ahead of you. But anyway, down on the brakes in towards turn 10. We can go a little bit deeper in, of course. It's a much more flowing final sector now. This is turn 12, which is almost identical, but just a little bit tighter and goes the other way. Then through the final couple of corners at 13 and 14 as well. Much better corners to drive through. Pretty much flat out through the first one. They somehow still have that sausage curb on the outside for whatever reason on the way in towards the final corner. And then they get up towards the line, avoiding going wide. And that was impressive as well. Often when you're following a car that goes wide into the gravel like that, you can very often find yourself following them straight into the gravel as well. But did a good job to not get distracted, as did Buck Hamilton here by the looks of him. This is the early part of his lap, and he's got an equal distraction here at the beginning.
Yeah, but when you've got so many cars circulating the circuit, more than 40 on a track that it's not the longest in the world, you're always going to find a little bit of traffic. And Buck Hamilton, relatively speaking, has got a little bit of clean air, but it's still not going to be too helpful for him to have a car directly in the eye line, particularly the long corner here like turn 3, keeping it very tight, wasn't he, to the apex to start the lap, but really keeping it nice and close to the pro times, which is also good to see. A little bit of an early turn in as well, turn number 4, and keeping the car as tight as he can for as long as he can, and not using as much of the left-hand side of the circuit as we saw William Fenton use on his pole lap. So minor differences between the Pro and the AM, and Buck Hamilton again not going as wide, so maybe William Fenton carrying that little bit more apex speed and just about enough to keep him on the circuit. Through 7 and 8 once again, very tight line from Buck Hamilton, drifting it out wide, but not really affecting him too much over that bumper, the sausage curb. And then you're really letting the car fly loose for the rest of the lap, aren't you? Because there isn't really any heavy braking zone until you get to turn 1 again.
No, here's a relatively heavy braking zone at turn 10, but be a while until the next one. It's not really, the other notable thing, he's not really catching the driver ahead, which you would expect from a fastest lap, but this is of course only the fastest lap in AM, and there were still 6 or 7 drivers who went quicker than Buck Hamilton on this lap, of course. Into the final couple of corners now, spotting the apex there at 13, which is a little bit more difficult than some might expect, and then in towards 14, the equally flowing final corner. Doesn't even really utilise the exit of turn 14 as much as he could have, and that was good enough for pole position by just 100th of a second. And what an important pole position it could turn out to be. He's only 16 points behind Luke Davis. However, he's not only 100th ahead of Luke Davis. Instead, he's a lot further than that. Let's have a look at the grid in its entirety, though, starting with William Fenton, who is on pole by a 10.5 head of car cover. Jeff Osborne on road 2 with Jeff in this section. Back in 51st, Robert Jeffries 2.2 back in 42nd. Luke Christian is 43rd ahead of Scott Jeffries, and then Sean Mulholland, the only driver not to have qualified in that 45 car field. A very large field it is indeed. Now grinning up on the back straight, getting ready to go racing. As you say, the biggest field the Fixed Series has ever had, and we'll see just how they get through this opening sector of the lap.
really interesting, I think, to see the opening few corners. Drivers are going to have to be bold, have to be brave in turns 1 and 2, but they're not the heaviest of braking zones, so drivers are going to have to be careful. I suspect we're going to see a couple of cars come together, maybe in the middle of turn 2, but turn 3 we might see some drivers drift out wide, create a little bit of contact, and I think the fights will still continue on until we get to 7 and 8 on the lap.
Let's see as the drivers make their way around the final few corners now and get themselves ready for the start. The top 3 covered with 3 different manufacturers of representation, of course, at the front, as the pace car will pull to the right-hand side on the way towards pit lane, and we'll be ready to go for 35 minutes of racing. Just unfortunately looked like GT3 might well not have taken the start here after qualifying in 3rd, and so we'll get a word on that in a few moments' time. But anyway, let's get this race on the road. It's William Fenton immediately out the final corner, hits full throttle and goes for it. Immediately pulling a couple of car lengths over the rest of the field, and it's side by side for 2nd place. Already in towards turn number 1. Here goes Kofod on the inside line. A great start already from him on the way in towards turn number 1, and he clears the Corvette into turn 1 and 2. Great start for the series leader, who's already ahead of Kyle Kober and Desiree Osborne, who have been displaced on the start by the series leader.
Yeah, what a launch off of the line, and just still going side by side. Oh, big crash in the background. That's the number 72 car, hard into the wall through turn 3, but they're still going to be battling it out all the way through this long right-hander at turn 4. The rotation of the car helping a few of the drivers on the inside. Some drivers maybe drifting a little bit wide, but they'll dive through 5 with the sunset setting in the background. But what a start, what an important launch for William Fenton, and for Jeff Calfold as well. A great start to get him up into P2.
And it's big news in the AM Series lead, I'm afraid, because it's Luke Davis who's had to go back to pit lane early on here. We'll get word on that in a few moments' time, of course, but big moment down there in the AM standings. Ross Sortino has lost plenty of places here on the start in AM as well. He's flying down the field, unfortunately, going the wrong way early on, and Buck Hamilton's going to get a very big lead on the way in towards turn number 10. There you go. Jarek Keane has made up some places as well. He's on the outside in the Porsche here, looking up the inside at turn 12 as well. He won last time we were at this layout of Barcelona, and he's made up a few places early on here as well. One of which is Ross Sortino, though, who was right behind Buck Hamilton. Now he's 9 places behind.
Yeah, and we've got more drivers off in the background. I think that was the number 5 car finding the gravel, but the number 72 that we saw off the start was indeed Luke Davis. So he had a big old hit on the opening lap. Sortino looked like he dropped those positions through 7 and 8, so maybe getting onto that sausage curb and losing a heap of time. But for Buck Hamilton, this is an absolute gift. He has got, 8 cars between himself and the next closest rival that he has in his class. This is great news for the 57 car, and he can kind of play this race a little bit safer than he otherwise thought he could, with the likes of Sully Sad, Brett Thurman more keen to get through on him as they look to fight with Desiree Osborne for the top 5.
I can tell you that Luke Davis is the only driver who's had to come down pit lane after the opening lap, I'm afraid, here in this race, which is a shame for him. Clarence Rosser, Ian Cabana were both slowed in the incident. By the looks of things, Rosser actually started from pit lane, so maybe that's just why. Jay Steffi also started from pit lane, by the way, and has dropped a whopping 17 places just in the Pro class alone, and has a lot of work to do throughout the remainder of this race. We'll get a view as to what happened with a replay in a few moments' time, but off goes Matt Sheriff in towards turn 7 and 8. You were mentioning in qualifying what a difficult section of corners that is. Well, Sheriff has just missed the 2 corners entirely.
And I suspect something similar happened to Ross Sortino, which is why he tumbled down the order, and you can see how easy it is to do. Oh, big move to the inside. That's a massive send from Ross Sortino. Oh. Was it late on the brakes? Was it an intentional move? Either way, he's past Waldo Walton. I thought he was going to find Ross on the inside there. There's no doubt about that, and he's going to try and get after the number 80 of Lucas Nguyen. Oh, no, that's a big one.
Oh, he's been hit as well. It was inevitable. He's been collected by someone as well. Oh dear, we'll get word again on that in a few moments' time. There you can see the bodywork off to the left-hand side, the debris strewn across the road. But it's been a disastrous start for Ross Sortino, who now needs the pit lane as well. He's got suspension damage, and it's the worst possible start.
Yeah, he's had a horrible opening couple of laps. He has just been almost bullied down the order. Made that move for P13 again, but that little mistake, which turned into quite a big error, has cost him any real chance in this race. He's going to be fighting over what he would consider scraps in his championship ambitions. Up towards turn 4, though, we are still seeing some moves being made and some ambitious drivers looking for them. Jared Keane having to defend from Matt Scherf, who did lose those positions down at turn 7 and 8 a couple of laps ago, but he's looking for it around the outside at turn 5. Going to be hard pressed to find it there, but an up and under might work with the camber towards 6 and then 7 and 8 itself.
Yep, Keane took one step forward and one step back, I'm afraid, in the last lap. This is what happened to Luke Davis, and he was hit there, I'm afraid, by a Ferrari and backed it straight into the wall. That's why Davis had to go back to pit lane, because he had no rear end anymore. And I believe, as I say, it was Ian Cabana, I think, the driver caught up with him in that opening lap incident. There is the onboard from Cabana. I mean, I think Luke Davis there has got a right to be pretty aggrieved at that one, as we see also happened to Luke Christian on this opening lap at turn 12.
Yeah, just going around. A spin that we'll probably see a couple of times. This is what happened to Ross Sortino. Same place, a little bit later on in the middle of the corner, and then getting collected. Drivers having absolutely nowhere to go. He was absolutely slap bang on the racing line, and lucky to really get it out of the way for everybody else coming through, but not what Sortino would have wanted. This is what happened with Robert Jeffries. 3 into turn 4 is never going to go, and a spin there for the 803. Lucky to get it back around again on the circuit.
That was a bit messy, dear me, in towards turn number 4. So there's your look at what's happened over the course of these first 5 minutes. Just want to go back to that first incident, though, Dar. I mean, what are your thoughts on that one? It's a big one for the AM Championship. The series leader, the points leader, Luke Davis, is on pit lane as a result. He's still on pit lane, has been for the last 5 minutes. And as I said, I think he's got the right to be a bit aggrieved about that one.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing he could do, was there, through turn 3? Car behind, maybe getting a little over-ambitious, maybe misjudging the speed that you could carry through turn 3 with a tighter line than you would normally take in qualifying. But yeah, incredibly difficult for Luke Davis, especially as he was as his championship ambitions are still going to be very much alive. This does set him back a touch, though, of course. With difficulty, especially considering that he's going to have to drop this round and hope that he doesn't have to drop any others. It just sets him back still in the opening half of the season. If you wanted this kind of thing to happen, you want it to be towards the end of the season so that you have points to fall back on, but not great for our championship leader. But I'm sure he will come back as the number 80 car sending it to the inside. That's caught me by surprise, and I think it also caught Jared Keane a little bit by surprise.
Maybe. It's the best place to the Audi, still in the same position where he qualified, actually. Lucas Nguyen still in 13th position as things stand, having a look up the inside towards turn 10. Would you give credit to the fact that this is the more open hairpin there for the fact that there are more chances down in towards turn 10, excuse me, on this occasion, and we're going to see another chance in towards turn 1 here as well. Maybe that's because of the faster final sector as well, but let's see. First of all, Brett Furman versus Sully Sad. It's Furman on the outside line. He can't do it there. Sully Sad will just about hang on. Yeah, how much credit are you giving to this faster final sector for increased chances at turn 10 and maybe turn 1 as well?
But I think particularly down at turn 1, the faster flowing sector at the end of the lap means that we can have chances down at turn 1. The concertina effect into that chicane meant that you could never really stay that close to the cars in front. You could never really get the drive properly off of the corner. If you lead through turn 12, you're going to be slightly vulnerable once you leave turn 14, because there's no real chance to gain away from the car behind unless you've got some kind of tyre advantage. So definitely we're seeing the benefits of that faster final sector. And down at turn 10, I think it's a little bit more give and go. The hairpin that was there did mean that you can make some more heavier moves under braking, but with the faster nature of the corner, with more actually side-by-side action, which can run through to turn 12, and I think it's working better in these GT3 cars.
I think that we've, well, I've been impressed personally anyway over the first 10 minutes or so with him out side by side. We've got Andrew Valero probably not very impressed with the first few minutes though, because he's missing his front wing, or his front bumper I should say. On board with Jeff Lubis, part of Jeff Broken Wing Racing. I'm not sure whether it's his Jeff or Jeff Copeland who's broken their wing, but anyway. Down the inside he goes on a couple of McLarens. That's an impossibly tight gap. Oh goodness, he nearly rear ends a Porsche, and that was well, never going to stop in time, I'm afraid. Jeff Lubis sent himself straight off the road into the gravel and back down a few more positions, down to 37th.
Yeah, that was not what Lubick, I'm sure, was aiming for. I think he just missed the braking zone by even, it was 50 metres there, but it sent him well wide. Lucky not to collect anybody, wasn't he? Because there were a couple of cars up in front that it looked like he was about to rear end, but lucky enough, everybody to get through safely, apart from Jeff, of course. But it was nearly 3 wide down there into turn 10. Drivers, I don't think, would think about that if there was a hairpin, but they are going to think about 2 wide down into turn 1. 2 by 2, it's a Noah's Ark formation as we make our way through the opening couple of corners. It will be the cars on the outside line working a little bit better. The outside works through turn 2, though, and that's exactly what we're seeing again. Dale Pedersen making that move, the number 6 car getting his way up the order, and the pro driver looking to get his way ahead of some of these AMs.
Very much feels like McLaren land back here in towards turn 4 they go. 4 in a row, battling for 31st position. Excuse me, I just lost my place in the standings. Jay Steffi, the one part of this though that you'd expect to make his way through quicker than the others. He's in the sort of purpley green livery, if you like, 3rd in the line, and he is down 17 positions after qualifying 3rd overall. He has got some real work to do to get back to where he started, and to be honest, I'm not sure why he started from pit lane, but he did, and now he's having to make about 40 overtakes to even get to where he started this race, or should have started anyway.
Yeah, and that's not what you want to see. This is what Ryan Lunas, oh my word, that is not a comfortable sight. And Jeff Lubick is very, very lucky not to hit the back end of the Porsche that was in front of him, and even lucky enough to keep it out of the barrage on the outside of the corner as well. So all in all, I think we got away with that incident.
I think so, yeah. I think so. Through turn 13 they go. Bernard is still really struggling. He needs to get in soon as he can. I suspect this Porsche will be in because he's struggling. He is really, really struggling. He's only down a couple of positions in the pro class, but he'll be down a few more after that, and he's going to be down a lot more overall positions. Have a look at this. The McLarens are swarming now. Having a look up the inside on the way towards turn 1. That's Jay Steffi looking for 3rd in the queue, we'll call it, up the inside of Ryan Luna, who just got dived in towards turn 10 a couple of laps ago. That was a more sensible dive from Jay Steffi, and he moves up to 32nd. Then Carsten Quint tries to follow through as well. Can't quite do the same.
No, and having to stick exactly where he is, but it does very much seem that we've got some drivers under pressure and a couple of little clumps being formed by some slower drivers. Might being a bit of a bottleneck at the moment. Inside move then for P30 as we see the number 6 driver, of course, who is that again? That is Dale Pedersen. Of course, it's Dale Pedersen through turn 6, trying to defend for all his worth. 31st, 32nd, 34th, 35th, they are all in tow. It's a growing train. As they start fighting at the front, it kind of bunches them up behind. And we're seeing the likes of Andrew Venaro get right up close to the back of that yellow and blue car. We might see him move down into turn 10 here.
This is back in understeer land, I'm afraid, for Andrew Venaro. The Porsche doesn't mind a bit of understeer anyway. And now it's without a front bumper, you're going to be really struggling. I really feel for him, I've got to say. Meanwhile, change for 4th as Ryan Osborne gets past Tyler Graf. That's a one out of the blue, really, as Osborne gets down the inside, Graf round the outside, and will hang on to the position, but just for how long before I complete that sentence? And now Osborne gets through on the inside line through turn 3, or he should do anyway. Graf keeps coming. These two can't seem to decide between themselves who wants 4th place at the moment, as they go up to turn 4 now to see if they can sort it out now. Graf goes round the outside, brakes a little bit later and does hang on. I know this race is only 35 minutes, but I do fear for his ability to concentrate for that long. It's self-admitted being ill today, and that is never easy to concentrate and be quite at your best when you are feeling a little bit ill, and maybe exemplified by the fact that he was the winner 1 week ago, and now he's over 6 seconds behind, only 13 minutes into the race.
And clearly didn't affect him too much though, as he made a great move around the outside at turn 4. This is Vasconcelos again, the dog of the field that we noted last week, doing his best, whether he can reach the pedals or not, to get himself up into P7 really. Solly Sad dropping off the back of Buck Hamilton, creating a bit of a train. You can see him at the front there, 1, 2, 3, 4, flash through the screen. Only about 2/3 of a second between all 4 cars, and this could be quite an interesting battle towards the end for drivers fighting over some big points, and some drivers in championship positions that they may really want to be improving by the end of the day.
For those who weren't here last week, can you explain the dog?
Oh no, just that Jake Vasconcelos, you'll be able to see when we show his little name card at the bottom, the photo that he has is just of a dog, rather than of Jake himself, I do believe. There's Andrew Trickett at the 514, but for Jake Vasconcelos, there you go. Okay. We presume that that's not Jake, but we don't know.
Yes. Looks like a quite tall dog. Maybe it would reach the pedals. Anyway.
Mine could, anyway.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, through turn 3 they go into wrong animal for the battle for 7th place. Just under 21 minutes to go here at Barcelona. Andrew Venero is now finally in, putting himself out of his misery slightly. He'll get a new front nose, and he'll be back on his way, and we'll see where he can recover to by the end of the day. Don't forget, it's always important to try and recover, even if you're not going to gain any pro positions, because don't forget, everyone scores positions as an overall finishing position, and so overtaking AMs does actually matter, even if you are a pro driver, for your points tally.
Yeah, and I think for the likes of the drivers like Joshua Lewis, who's currently in P17, surrounded by AM drivers, getting through on Pete Meslier and David Morse could be critical. And for someone like Buck Hamilton, the more distance he can put between himself and David Morse is going to benefit him. Although Buck Hamilton is going to be sitting very, very pretty by the end of today with the amount of points he's looking to pick up. He comes into this race 16 points down on Luke Davis, and we've seen what's happened to the number 72 car, getting into a big crash at the start and finding himself 7 laps down at the moment. I don't know if he's actually emerged from the pit lane yet. So really not having a good day for Luke Davis. Great day for Buck Hamilton, and he could see himself leaping a 16-point gap or a 16-point deficit into a 16-point margin of gain, or lead I should say, ahead of the rest of the pack, and that could be great for Hamilton here.
Andrew Trickett in for the first scheduled pit stop of the day. Andrew Venero is still in. That's why I'm not counting him as a scheduled stop just yet. And you are right, by the way, Luke Davis is back out on the circuit again. So we've got all 44 drivers still running, would you believe it? Side by side in towards turn 1, meanwhile, for 17th. That was a look from the Corvette of Sam Smeltzer on Ryan Chandler there. This is all a group going back from David Morse, really, in 14th place. But it's a humongous group right the way back to Nicholas Johnson in 22nd. I'll make it about 9 drivers, 8 or 9 drivers. So anyway, into the middle sector they'll now go. It's a case of a bit of follow the leader here, but these are high positions in the AM standings, especially the battle for Ryan Chandler and Sam Smeltzer for 17th position. The McLaren, the McLaren spins just as we were talking about it. Ryan Chandler takes the place because it's a spin from Smeltzer in towards turn 5. He mentioned in qualifying it's a difficult braking zone. Well, it was actually through the centre of the corner where the rear end of the McLaren broke loose.
Yeah, we could see the smoke come up as Joshua Lewis lost the rear end, and a good holding of the brakes there, avoiding rolling back onto the racing line. Could have been disaster for a couple of drivers coming through, but Joshua Lewis, that is not what he could afford in this race. He drops down the order quite heavily to 24th overall, still surrounded, however, by some AM drivers, and he'll be looking to get through the likes of Kevin Bergqvist and Regan Chandler. But Nicholas Johnson and Eric Terry Haag have gained from that in the Pro Championship. Eric Terry Haag, actually a name who would be looking to get up the order a little bit more. We've seen him do very well in the opening stages of the season, but only down in P19 in this one.
Apologies, yes, it was Lewis, not Smeltzer. Apologies. Sam Smeltzer was, of course, the position behind Regan Chandler. Anyway, Ryan Chandler. Down towards turn number 1 goes the battle for 7th place again. This is Sully Sad, Brett Berman and Jake Vasconcelos, with the added McLaren of maybe Matt Scherf and the Audi of Lucas Nguyen to join later as well. Just in the background of these shots as these three continue to follow the leader here. We're over halfway, by the way, and so pit stops can't be too far away. But for William Fenton, it looks like it's not going to matter. He took his 4th pole position in his PRL career earlier on today. It looks like he might be on his way to his 5th PRL victory and becoming the first repeat winner of this Fixed Series season.
Going to be interesting, I think, just to see if we have any drivers who can kind of pull themselves into a an interesting contention in the last few minutes. I mean, William Benson looks like he's got it under control for the win, and Buck Hamilton as well, but a couple of other drivers who are looking to gain places, the likes of Jake Vasconcelos. If he can gain these couple of positions, that could really set him in good stead as we head to the next few rounds of the championship. Of course, we've got Interlagos next week, and a circuit that you could say is somewhat similar in its characteristics to here at Barcelona, much more similar than some other tracks that we're going to end up going to throughout the rest of the season. Definitely, I think a couple of drivers are going to just be trying to build on the confidence at the moment. We're still in the first half of the season, and if you want to be putting a run together, you're going to have to be starting that soon. So getting a couple of good races last week, this week, next week maybe, could be really, really good for some drivers heading into the final 4 rounds.
Real scheduled pit stops now coming in from the top 10. Brett Furman and Jake Vasconcelos following one another. Thankfully, Vasconcelos is the pit box behind the Porsche, otherwise that would have been really difficult for him to spot. Just in the background there come a few more of the AM drivers. I think that's Eric Terry Haag in the background. It is indeed. You can tell because he's in one of the few Mustangs. And there, out come the Porsche and the McLaren, absolutely locked together. Goodness me, they need to sort that one out quickly as they get out the pit exit, and the Porsche wins out. It's Brett Furman who just about hangs on, despite the fact his pit stop was a second longer. He just gets out ahead of the McLaren, and here they go, merging into the field. Here's Andrew Trickett, who pitted earlier on, of course, and he's got a position. He's got Vasconcelos. Now he's crawling all over the back of Furman, who's also on the back of Luke Christian in the white Porsche, who hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, for Vasconcelos, he was just able to take that lead, but look at the margin he's now been able to build up to the driver he came out alongside with. So really, really important for him to get out just in front, as we do see Vasconcelos in that 11 car trailing for the time being. But critical moments, they were side by side out of the pit box, but already a second and a half lost by the number 11 car into 7 and 8, and that could be critical for the rest of the race with only a quarter of an hour to go.
Yeah, Tricky getting in between them has really halted Vasconcelos. Can you imagine having a 1.3 second quicker pit stop and coming out still a second behind a driver you just trailed on the way into pit lane? Must be furious, Vasconcelos, but it's not really anyone's fault. It's just the way that the merge happened there. As we go back to the leaders who are making their way on the front straight again here. Sully Sad looks like he's put a bit of distance into Matt Scherf here. Or is he being caught by them? Let's have a look on this last lap time. As that's the look down the inside from Magoon. That's not going to do this lap time any good. No, they are catching Sully Sad, they were. Scherf was half a second quicker last time round, so they're actually bringing the Porsche back again, because Sully Sad was in that battle with Thurman and Vasconcelos, and you'd imagine he'll rejoin, but looks like these two will be involved as well if they don't fight too hard before they make their pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, Lucas there really making a dive to the inside at turn 1, trying to catch Matt Scherf off his guard, and got me off guard towards turn 1. I thought he was going to cause a collision, but nicely controlled to the apex of the opening corner. I also think I saw Lucas having his window wipers on coming down the front straight, and I don't know why he would be doing that. I can't see any rain in the air, but maybe he's preemptively wiping them just in case, getting some washer fluid on to try and get through on that Scherf. But as you said, catching Sully Sad, that is the aim, I think, for a few drivers. Buck Hamilton is gone. He's up the road. You don't have to worry about P6 right now. For Sully Sad, Matt Scherf, Lucas Nguyen, Waldo Walden and Jared Keane, I think this could be quite an important battle for the lower positions in the back end of the top 10. Still big points for these guys, and gaining a lot of points over some drivers who are going to be really struggling. You can see Morse, Meslier, Smeltzer, Chandler, Bulgaro, all AM drivers following that top 11, and so it's a good chance for a lot of guys to pick up some important points on drivers around them in the championship.
Another trip past the pit lane for Nguyen, but not for Scherf, who's in, and the AM leader's in as well here, by the way. Buck Hamilton in the Corvette has made his way in with Sully Sad as well, so that's an important rejoin for Sad. How close is he going to be to Brett Furman, who has gotten clear of Luke Christian and is now going at his own speed, and it's an important outlap for him as well. Buck Hamilton should be out just ahead of them because he's ahead of Sully Sad. There's his pit stop. There is Thurman in the lime green Porsche. Is he going to be ahead of Sad or not here on the way out of the pit lane? This is a battle for the fringe of the top 5. Buck Hamilton will be out well before them. Where's Sully South? There he is. And here comes Furman on the outside line. He's up to speed, of course, and he does get through. Oh, Sam breaks late, but he can't quite stay alongside. You can see how late he broke. He overshot the corner very nearly, but he is behind Furman. This is currently the battle for 17th place, but it will be for about 7th. Later on here, it'll be Furman ahead of Sad, and then Matt Surf has got ahead of Jake Vasconcelos and Andrew Trickett.
Yeah, and big moves then in this pit stop window, and important for that number 69 car to get through and ahead of Sully Sad. Big moments for Brett Thurman in his pursuit for a very good finishing position, and you really wouldn't rule it out now. Looking like he'll easily get inside the top 10, if not the top 7, with the position that he currently finds himself in. Big gap, of course, it should be to drivers in front when the top guys do eventually pit, but very good news for Brett Thurman. He can try and push on from here to maybe gain up towards the back of Buck Hamilton, although that may be difficult. Dale Pedersen is in that battle there as well for the time being.
Looks like we're reaching our limit now as far as fuel is concerned, because William Fenson's leading them all in, followed by points leader Jeff Cofford, Carl Cobo in next, and then Tyler Graff and Israel Osborne, who have been fighting for 4th for much of this race. Lucas Nguyen is going to come out right in that group we were just watching in a few moments' time. That will be interesting to watch in a few moments. Fenson already on his way, even as 5th place is pulling up to their box. He is a long way ahead of the rest of the field. Then goes Cofford. He's out next, a bit further ahead of Colbert, actually, who had a couple of seconds longer in the box. These guys are comfortably ahead of those still out on the circuit. There's Buck Hamilton in the blue and black Corvette. He'll be behind the top 5 pros. Where's Lucas Nguyen going to be? No surprises in the top 5. What about for Brett Furman? He does get up to 7th place. That's no surprise. Where's Nguyen? He's quite a long way behind. This is a very packed up group here, and Nguyen has come out on the wrong side of it, right at the back.
Yeah, and he is right at the back of the train, but there's a couple of other drivers in this battle who are going to be very keen. I don't really mean to make the reference, but keen to make their way through. Jared is one of those guys. He's looking at the back of Jake Vasconcelos, who is now inside the top 10. But for Sully Sad, losing the position to Brett Thurman, he's now going to come under pressure from Matt Scherf, who we have seen go off the track so far in this race. So he'll be thinking that he maybe should be in the position that Brett Thurman is currently in, and he's going to have to fight his way there with less than 10 minutes on the clock. Pete Mejia looking at the number 80 car, ducking and diving, or actually that's Sam Smelt tried to say, on Pete Mejia as they come through turn 5. These two important places in the AM category, 2nd and 3rd overall in their category, I should say, despite being 15th and 16th overall.
Yeah, good battle for 2nd place. Don't feel too bad, by the way, about Jared Keane and the Keane joke. That's a given. I've been thinking all race about watching David Morse make contact with someone and calling it Morse code. Anyway, we'll leave that one for a better occasion. This will be the battle for 2nd place in the AM standings. It looks like Pete Mejia is going to invite quite a lot more into the party here, because there's a very big group just behind this battle. It starts with David Mawson at 17th place, but doesn't really stop down towards Nicholas Johnson in 22nd. If these two fight too hard, they could very much invite another 7 into the group.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if the drivers do get a little bit more involved in the group as they run their way through. Not long left, though, in this race, and we'll have to see if the likes of Mejia can defend from Smeltzer for this important position in the AM category towards turn 1. Looks like Mejia has the measure of the number 36 into the opening turn, and indeed has a little bit of a defensive line as well. And he'll see off Sam Smeltzer this time around as the laps do tick away.
Yep, they do. 8 minutes to go, so what's that going to be? Probably another 5 laps here, including the one we've just started. So plenty of racing still to be had in round 4 of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. Of course, the Open Series is coming up next, the GT3 Sprint Series, coming up in about half an hour's time, just less the race will be beginning. So stick around for that. 40 minutes of action from Barcelona coming up after interviews and reaction, of course, from this race here this evening. It looks like it's going to be William Fenson's 5th PRL victory if he can just hang on here for the next few moments. And I mentioned it at the start of the broadcast, but he and Jeff Cofford have yet to finish off the podium in races they've been at. Now, that is a little bit of a distinction important to make, because Fenson, of course, wasn't at last week's round at Indianapolis, hence why he's down in 9th overall in the point standings. But after next week's round, when we have the drop weeks, he's suddenly going to be right near Cofford again, and there's going to be almost nothing to choose between them.
Yeah, and it's going to be a really interesting title fight, I think, all the way to the end of the season. Fenton and Kaufold look like they've got the measure each other for the time being. Kaufold will have the advantage by virtue of William Fenson's, in effect, drop round where he didn't attend and so scored 0 points. But that advantage will, of course, come back to the 88 car. But I think it's going to be really interesting. We're starting to see some really nice running themes across the PRL in the early stages of this season 4 of 2024, where we're seeing some tight battles and some really interesting rivalries develop, and I think Fenton and Kaufold are no different, and they're part of that group.
Now, can this group do anything to overhaul one another? It's getting quite deceptively dark at the moment, by the way. Sam Smeltzer and Pete Medier are going side by side again. Here they are. They are looking to invite others to the party here. Round the outside, goes Smeltzer. He's trying to hang on to this position and finally get into second place. Hang on to the overtake he's just made, and he does. Brakes late at turn 5 and gets the position. There's contact between the two McLarens, and Mezier can't get back through again. Here comes David Morse, just in 4th position in class. And goodness me, this is going to be a fight to the end now in the final 4 laps for the AM podium between these three.
Sam Smeltzer looks like he's going to try and scamper away now. He looks like he's got a little bit of a gap, and when I say a little bit, about half of a second. Can he make advantage of that over the next couple of corners? You'd expect Pete Mezier to be able to use the slipstream to get back right behind Sam Smeltzer down towards turn number 1, but if Smeltzer can keep the lines nice and tight, carry some good momentum through turns 12, 13 and 14, we might see him try and scamper away a touch and consolidate that P2 in class. But for Pete Mezier, P2, he was looking pretty good. Now he's having to fight to stay on the podium, and we've got a couple of Hungary drivers right in behind him trying to displace him. David Morse is, target number 1, or is the opening problem for Sam Smeltzer to get him off of the podium. Eric Terry Haag in this battle as well could be interesting, as he is the pro driver looking to pick up some extra points to keep himself in any kind of championship contention.
It's going to be quite close here, by the way, actually, as to whether it's going to be 3 or 4 laps to go. I reckon there's a chance of 4 to go here. Forget how long forget how short the lap time is now they've taken out that final chicane and fastened the the final sector. Change, by the way, for 11th place, I think, as Andrew Trickett gets past Jared Keane and does confirm that into turn 5. So good overtake from him there, and it's created a defensive break in the group. However, Jared Keane displaced, and he's down to 12th position now for the race winner. Last time we were here at Barcelona.
Yeah, and there's only ever been 3 race winners here in Barcelona. 1 in the Fixed Series, 1 in the Sprint Series, and then, of course, 1 in the, I believe it was the GT3 Series, and that was back in August, and Brett Gardner not in this one. So only a couple of drivers who can say that they've been race winners in this race. And as we see Jared Keane having to defend because Waldo Walden tried to walk around the outside, opens the door for Lucas and Nguyen to come around the outside at turn number 12. Can he just about tiptoe? No is the answer. But clearly Waldo Walden making a slight error is allowing the number 80 to get right inside his wing mirrors and to really put some pressure on the number 84 car. They'll run it out through the final corner, and I think they will have 3 to go, as I don't think we're going to get any. Yeah, we're going to have 3 to go after this one, I'm sure. Ewan.
Wow. You be careful. Towards turn number 1 for these drivers. Oh dear, Keane just misses the apex slightly. Waldo Warden's going to have a chance here, just getting a nicer run through turn number 2. You're seeing it all from the view of the best placed Audi in the field, Lucas Nguyen, and look at the run he's got. Waldo Warden's past Keane, but what about Nguyen? Will he go to the inside here too? It'll be aggressive from him, but no, he's going to run out of no! He ran out of space and then hit Jared Keane, and they've both gone for a spin. The 13th and 14th place drivers both around and trying to get back going again in very precarious positions.
Jared Keane just about getting it back on the circuit, but you can see just the slightest of taps when you're rotating the car like that. There's nothing you can do. For the number 80 of Lucas Nguyen, it's a horrible place to be on the circuit. The drivers approaching are completely blind and are just unsighted, and reversing back onto the racing line probably wasn't the best idea, but I think everyone made it through there.
I think so. I think as well, Nguyen was kind of at fault for that, wasn't he, really? He wasn't going to make the apex, I don't think. Well, he didn't make the apex, so he wasn't going to make the racing line for the corner, is what I mean. And I think that may well be on him. Goodness me, what's going on down here? This is the remnants of the group, or the back end of it. Anyway, Eric Terry Haag is involved. Colin McKenzie in the pink is at the head of it, and on board we go with Ryan Chandler here in the Corvette, trying to make his voice heard as well. Goodness me, this is close for 16th place in the field, and of course 4th place in the AM standings as well. Excuse me, 5th place. Oh, Terry Haag's gone. Goes for a spin. I wonder if he hit the back of the Ferrari just on the entrance there, and that one settled him. But he's done a remarkable job to get back going again, although he will lose his top 20 position.
Yeah, losing all of the momentum through the final corner. Miraculous, yeah, to keep it going towards turn number 1. It looked like he was going fully around there, but he will drop all the way down to P23, it might be. He'll be fighting side by side with another driver that's come to blows this evening. Joshua Lewis having a spin of his own down at turn 5 a few laps ago. These two guys battling it out, but in the end, Joshua Lewis coming out on top. Neither driver is going to be happy with how their race has gone. And this is how it happened for Eric Terry Haag. Looked like he just got a little bit too close to the back end of the car in front, or really just losing the rear end there, it seemed.
Not sure whether he made contact or whether actually the car in front just slowed a bit more than he was expecting. He just hit the brakes on turning. But anyway, it's the same result, and that was very close as well. He just had to give a bit of space to Jay Steffi there, who's making his way back through the field. I mean, pretty admirable effort from the McLaren driver. I think he's made up about 20 places since, yeah, just under 20 places so far, having started from pit lane. So a nice recovery, I suppose, but he could have had a top 5 at least here, Jay Steffi.
Yeah, and Steffi, yeah, it's not been the easiest of days for him, but you know, one man's lost, another man's gain. We're seeing some other drivers being able to really benefit at the moment. Eric Terry Haag, I mean, you can tell how bad the day for Jay Steffi has been, considering he's behind 2 drivers who have had incidents of their own, and he'll be looking to make positions right at the end of this race. They will find the white flag when they cross the line next time round, but no, it's difficult, really, for some of these guys. In a championship with so many cars, one mistake can be so critical, and when you've only got one drop round to fall back on, every little mistake is going to be so crucial, and we're seeing that this evening. Little bit of a love tap, it seems, between Solly Sad and Matt Scherf. They haven't got long to sort this out for P8, and Jake Vasconcelos wouldn't mind another position as well.
Yeah, they're on the final lap, and it's getting close again. Solly Sad has not been quite as quick, I'm afraid, in the second half of this race as he was at the beginning. And Matt Scherf is looking for a late pass here, as is Vasconcelos. No, can't do it on the way towards turn 5. There are limited chances now, only one last trip into turn 10. That's the last chance, really.
Yeah, I can't see any kind of overtake happening after turn 10, but you wouldn't put it past Matt Scherf looking for a bit of a send into that corner, knowing that, I mean, there's no other place that he can make the move. How's the run through turn 9, though? This could be crucial. We'll have to see in a minute if he's able to make the move, though, because that could be an important place for him, but this is an important place for William Fenton once again.
Important place indeed. He's winning again in the PRL for the 2nd time this season and the 5th time in his career. He is a PRL race winner. Oh, it's behind. Vasconcelos and Scherf come together. Vasconcelos into the gravel, and Scherf is hanging on to 9th place from a different driver. This time Andrew Trickett on the inside line. Through the final corner, though, comes Buck Hamilton, who'll be the AM winner, as through goes Trickett. Matt Scherf does lose position in the end. He will finish 10th, but Vasconcelos is the one who really drops down. He finishes down in 15th position. A
disaster for those two. They must have come together in the middle of the corner. We'll see it here. Oh dear. Not how I expected that to go, but that's how Scherf spun around. It doesn't really explain what happened to Vasconcelos, though. Maybe that happened later in the corner. That was Vasconcelos. Yeah, sorry. Very weird little incident down there.
From what it looked like to me, Vasconcelos was right up the curve on the left anyway, and he still got spun around to the right. So I don't think there's much he could have done to avoid that, actually. And so there you go. Let's have a look at the results. Svensson taking the victory ahead of points leader Jeff Kofod, who doesn't take a bit of a hit in points. In fact, kept pace well in the second half of that race. Carl Cobart finishes on the podium as well, ahead of Tyler Graff and Israel Rothbaum. Buck Hamilton, the winner in AM, finishes in 6th place, ahead of Brett Furman, Sully Sad, Andrew Trickett and Matt Scherf. And they're not the only 4 pros Hamilton was able to put between himself and Am. Second place, Warden was also in there too. Then it was Sam Smeltzer who overtook and ran away from Pete Mezier in the end there. David Moore's just missed out on a clash podium ahead of Jake Vasconcelos with that late spin. It was Colin McKenzie who just hung on from Ryan Chandler there for 16th overall, with Nicholas Johnson, David Bush III and Joel Peguero rounding out the top 20. 21st was Regan Chandler, ahead of the two McLarens of Joshua Lewis and Jay Steffi, who came from the back of the field after starting from the pit lane. Lucas Nguyen dropped at the end there to finish 24th, ahead of Eric Terry Haag with that late slide through the final corner. Barry Cocker and Dale Pedersen, Tito Velag, Jared Keane and Marshall Hurtado round out the top 30. Carsten Quint finishes 31st. Jeff Lubisch was the first driver over a minute back, with Robert Jeffries just in behind, followed by fellow Porsche driver Mark Bray. It was Ryan Luna 35th ahead of Thomas Rep in the Corvette. Then Luke Christian, the last of the pros, who finished on the lead lap, with Ian Cabana and Carlos Rosa final drivers overall to finish on the lead lap. Kevin Berkvis was one down with Scott Jeffries. Ross Sortino, Luke Davis did cross the line, 4 and 7 laps down respectively. Andrew Bernardo never re-emerged from his pit stop. That was a very dominant display indeed from William Fenton, and we can chat to him now. Welcome in, William. Good to have you with us. And congratulations on your second race win of the season. How was that race for you? Was it a little bit, was it as lonely as it looked from our perspective?
Yeah, it was very lonely. I just told myself just do my practice laps that I've been doing all week flat out, and that's what I did. So it felt like practice. I'm sure if someone, Jeff there, could have kept on my tail, it might have been a little bit more hairy, but good to just have a nice clean race.
Is it weird being so far back in the championship, knowing that you will vault up again after week 5 when that DNS is going to be, of course, written off as a drop week when they are applied after next week's race? Is it weird to be a championship contender and way down in 9th place? Is it difficult to sort of gauge where you really are?
Hopefully it is for everyone else. They can just leave me alone. For me, it's motivation, right? I know I need to be up the front. I need to avoid trouble. I can't drop another week. So, yeah, focus fully on full commitment. Hopefully I don't have to miss another week.
Yeah, we hope so as well. William, congratulations on the win tonight at Barcelona, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. William Fenton, the winner tonight in his... in the second occasion of this season. Just ahead of Jeff Carford, who's also got a win to his name, but not today. Welcome in, Jeff. Good to have you with us. And a solid points gain for you there in second position. Pretty comfortably in second in the end there as well. Tell us about that second half of the race, especially because you actually kept pace pretty well with Fenton and were able to drop everyone else behind you. Were you getting more comfortable as the race went on?
Yes, I started to get a little bit of rhythm as the race went on. I kind of messed up early on and lost the draft, so that didn't really help out my race overall. So, yeah, I was very happy to kind of keep pace. I was hoping he had some mistake, but he ran a very, very well race, very good race.
Draft wasn't something I was expecting to hear tonight. Was it particularly important to break the draft and stay in the draft when you're making overtakes tonight?
It was just very helpful to kind of keep close without really pushing your tires or punishing them early on, so it was beneficial at certain points. Obviously not for in the corners, but it was helpful to kind of save the tires and ease into corners.
How are you feeling about the championship situation? You and William Fenton are relatively together if you count its drop week, which of course it will in a week's time. Must be difficult to work out, but how are you feeling about the championship point situation?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had 2 kind of tracks in back-to-back that aren't Ferrari friendly, so I'll be able to kind of hang general pace. So I just need to kind of pick up a little bit of pace here and some other tracks to hopefully take it to them and take some P1s from them.
All right. Congratulations on second place tonight, Jeff, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jeff Carford there, the second place driver in the field, ahead of Carl Cobbett, who finishes third. Welcome in, Carl. Congratulations on third place and, of course, your best result of the season so far. How was the race generally, and how were those final few laps as you were closing into a podium finish?
Yeah, not gonna lie, I don't know how I pulled that quali lap out. I have not gone that fast all week, but I'll take it. And I got lucky. I was just drafted in second place for most of that race. I was not as quick as the pace showed, to be completely honest. So I was a little worried after the pit stop when I had no draft. But luckily the tires were in good shape and just kept it there for third place.
How important would you say that qualifying and indeed that track position is around here, despite the changes that have been made in the last couple of years, or the sort of reversion back to the old Barcelona, if you like, with a more flowing final sector? I think it provided a few more overtaking opportunities, but do you think that the track position is still really important, as is traditional at Barcelona?
Yeah, it's definitely very important to start higher up on the grid. Like I said, I got lucky with that quali lap, to be completely honest with you guys, and I had nothing for second place when he got by me on the first corner, so I was happy just to sit it there in third and ride out the race.
All right, congratulations on closing out a third place finish tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Carl Colbert, the third place driver in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. The first race of the evening is complete. Of course, we'll be back with more Fixed Series racing in a week's time from Interlagos, but don't go anywhere, because the PRL GT3 Sprint Series is about to get underway. 40 minutes of racing coming up from Barcelona once again, coming up next. Identical conditions for the Sprint Series drivers, but they're afforded 5 minutes longer in the race, and of course the ability to change the setup of their cars. Welcome along to the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, here live for round 4 on RaceSpotTV. Still myself, Ian Leary, alongside Darren Thacker for this round of the championship. Pretty excited about this race, to be honest, Darren. We saw a good opener in the Fixed Series, now for a good second race as well in the Sprint. It is even closer in the championship standings here, as Jaden Comright and Luke Wallace are tied on points after 3 rounds. David Holland only 7 points behind me, Simon Turner and Vincent Trepanier only 8 points back respectively as well. Emmett Lindqvist just 10 back, he's 6th, ahead of Caleb Middleton, Eric Brzezinski, Conor Wagner and Sean Dickinson. Those 10 covered by just 26 points at the moment. It's a bit more spread out in AM. 16 cover the top 2 down here with Steve Baker and Rich Calais. Ryan Reeves is in 3rd place ahead of Chris Long and Peter Moller, who round up the top 5. Corey Kakone is ahead of Kyle Robertson, who has a point ahead of Richard Svoboda, who has a point over Dakota Knapp, and then Wesley Price rounding out the top 10 in the AM standings. In the team standings, we've got Wilderness Racing leading by just 2 points ahead of Advanced Motorsports. Saltpepper Precision Racing Gold and SRTE Yellow are tied for 3rd place at the moment, and of SCR SimCity Racing 2. Then it's SRTE Unit SimSports in 6th place as Solpec Blue. Then the other SimCity car team ahead of Upfront Motorsports and Championship Racing Collective. Saw a good opener in the Fixed Series, Dara, and this championship situation is an enticer, I'll say. A thoroughly interesting opening 3 rounds of the championship. 3 different winners and a series leader who hasn't taken a race win yet in the form of Jaden Comright.
Yeah, and last week was had one of the greatest last laps I think I've ever seen at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Simon Theriault, Vincent Trepanier working as a team for Advanced Motorsports, doing really well and keeping them near the front all race long, only for it to be blown apart with the pit stops. Incredible ending to the race, but it means that Theriault and Trepanier, 1 and 2 again, look like they're trying to continue their dominance, at least in qualifying here.
And look at the top 6 here, as you make reference to. The top 6 in this session, first of all covered by 1/4 of a second. That's crazy within itself. But all of those top 6 are also in the top 10 of the drivers' standings. Sean Dickinson is 10th in the standings and he's 6th at the moment. Kevin Simpson is the first driver in the field to not be in the top 10, although he's only 12th, not that far behind. So it is a really, really high quality field, and they are just interchangeable every single week. It's the same lot in a completely different order.
And that's exactly the kind of championship we love seeing, isn't it? Where we don't really know who's going to come out on top. We know the names that are going to be there or thereabouts, but we don't know exactly who is going to be the one to, cross the timing line first, particularly in qualifying, and then in the race where we're seeing some really, really interesting fights. David Mendonca was the driver who was mixing it up with Dario and Trepanier last week, and he's down in P8 at the time being, just showing how volatile this championship can be. And the fact that you've got half a second, just over that, splitting the top 16 at the moment in qualifying. It's absolutely insane to see, and great for us as viewers, because it means that we're really going to get another tight race here in the Sprint Series.
Yeah, just after that, it's Elliot Budzinski in 9th place. He had a difficult round at Indianapolis, finishing all the way down in 25th position, I'm afraid. A pro driver in a sea of AMs and struggling at Indianapolis after finishing first the week before that at Le Mans, and second the week before that at Monza. So he'll be hoping that it's not just an opening couple of week flash in the pan there at Monza and Le Mans, the higher speed circuits, but instead it's just a little bit of a blip for him. Steve Baker goes to the top of the times in AM as we look at the previous leader, Matthew Brewer, in the TNR Porsche. Brewer is not really anywhere near the top of the driver's standings at the moment. He's only 15th, but he wasn't here last week, so that will get written off next week in the drop week as that's all figured out. But Steve Baker has got control of the AM Drivers' Championship, I think it's fair to say. 16 points is his lead. 16 points covers the top 8 in Pro. It's two very different stories.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a bit of a symptom of the fact that the AM points are kind of are based off of the overall positioning rather than their own separate point system. With Steve Baker and Matthew Brower getting the same amount of points that at the moment Simon Theriault and Vincent Trepanier will be picking up. So it does mean that we do get those wider gaps as Trepanier goes to the top right at the end of this session, replacing his teammate by nearly 0.2 of a second. Massive lap time from him. But as I was saying, the closer championship that we're getting here in the Sprint Series may be down to the fact that we aren't seeing as many AM drivers get involved in that top 16, so the big points are going to those drivers. And it also could be because we're seeing such close times, so it could really depend on who's on form on that particular night, but that's exactly what we want to be seeing. Can Theriault snatch pole back?
He is on course to just under 0.2 behind Vincent Trepanier. Can he get it back again as the checkered flag waves at Barcelona? No, he can't. He improves, but it's not enough. Just less than 1/10 of a second behind. Conor Wagner's going pretty quickly at the moment, by the way. He's got quite a long way to go in the Mustang from 4th position, but at the moment it's a front row covered by less than 1/10 of a second. Trepanier and Theriault quicker than the rest for now. We'll see if Conor Wagner can do anything about it.
Yeah, and bouncing his way over that sausage curb on the exit of 8, one of the nastiest little bits on the circuit, as we mentioned during the Fixed Series, flying through 9, carrying all that momentum and drifting out as wide as you dare onto that exit curb before getting into the gravel, and you don't want to pick up an off-track there either. Turn 10, Conor Wagner keeping the lines pretty tight, it seems, as he tries to get onto the front row in this one. Only about 0.5 of a second will get him up into P3, so he doesn't need to find too much time, but with a couple of corners to go, these lines have to be very, very tight now.
They certainly do. Conor Wagner has had 13 pole positions in the Precision Racing League in his long career. Let's see if this could be number 14. As he makes his way through the final corner, it's not going to be. He's through the gravel. This won't count, I'm afraid. He was going quicker as far as my reckoning goes. What's his lap time going to be? It doesn't improve anyway, but I suspect that's a lot to do with the running wide through the final corner as Luke Wallace makes his way to the line. Not convinced this is too much quicker, but it could be. Let's see. Over the line, don't speak too soon. As he crosses now for SRT Yellow. Yeah, I think he's staying where he is in 11th, so just outside the top 10 for him. So that'll be it for the qualifying session. Ryan Reeves is the only other driver out there, but I don't think he's improving. I don't have any data for his for whether he's improving or not. Maybe he is actually. Let's see. No is the answer to that. 21st for him. It will be in qualifying as we have another look at Barcelona. in the sort of sunshine in late evening. It is exactly the same conditions, as I said earlier, as it was for the Fixed Series drivers, so 6:15 start time. But because it's getting towards winter and because it's a 5-minute longer race, it's actually going to be getting a little bit dusky and maybe even quite dark at the end of the race. It got surprisingly dark, I've got to say, at the end of that fixed race.
Yeah, and with an extra few minutes here, this could get a little bit more difficult for drivers to be able to see. We'll have to wait to see if that actually becomes any kind of effect on the race. I think the drivers should be able to manage it, and it won't get too dark, especially considering we're only getting another 5 minutes. But you can never rule out some variables in the race, but we're going to be able to see some of the pole laps here. And Vincent Trepanier getting the pole in the pro category, and he's coming off a nice run of form after winning last week at Indianapolis.
Yeah, let's see his pole lap, and then afterwards I'll give you the answer to the quiz question of the day, which is that this is the 31st pole lap which you're watching right now for Vincent Trepanier. Where does that put him in the all-time list? And you can have a think about it over the next minute and a half while he takes his round to the Circuit de Catalunya. Through turn 3, difficult to get on the power, of course, especially in the Porsche that's so rear-biased, and when you put the power on, can be so easy to understeer off wide. That's the end of the first sector already. Down on the brakes towards turn 4, a half chance in the race for maybe an overtake down there at Repsol Corner, and then the downhill braking zone at 5. Not very steep downhill, it's not a very hilly circuit, however it is something to contend with, and Trepanier certainly does very well indeed. Now through the gentle left-hander at turn 6 before 7, which is a very tricky corner. Change of weight here, if you like, as he go over the crest of the hill there and then over the curb at turn 8. Then the commitment of turn 9, wonderfully fast in a downforce car, a bit painful to be honest in a GT3. Then down the back straight to complete the middle sector and go deep on the braking zone down at turn 10, which has been providing some great opportunities for overtaking in its new format. Down towards second gear this time and not first like you would before, and then take on the mirror image of that with a little bit of tightening on the exit here through turn 12. Getting through second gear, another bit of diamonding off there as he gets the exit, spots the apex for turn number 13, and then just avoids this curb on the left-hand side before getting into turn 14. Flawless lap. Dara, where does that put him in the all-time list by your reckoning?
Well, I would guess, but it would be cheating because I know, because I have the information in front of me. If anybody in chat has any ideas, and that's unless you want to give away the answer, because I could have some wild guess at what it could be.
I didn't realise. 8th place it is, to put you out of your misery. Down in towards turn with Steve Baker. Interestingly, both Porsches on pole here in Pro-Am. Can we give any credit to the Porsche for that, or are we going to say it's two jobs well done by Trepanier and Steve Baker, who we're riding on board with here?
We have seen a little bit more variation, haven't we, in the Sprint Series and the Fixed Series in terms of what cars drivers are going for. And I do remember talking to Trepanier last week, and he was a little bit apprehensive about how good the Porsche would be around this circuit. So I think it's more of a good job by those two drivers, not necessarily drivers who are really hoping to get themselves to the front of the field. But Steve Baker doing a wonderful job, not just in this race, but in this season so far. We mentioned it at the top of the show. The Drivers' Championship sees him 16 points in front, the only driver to cross the 100-point threshold at this point, and with by far the most consistent results. He is really putting in a good showing at the moment, and this lap should come as no surprise. We'll see how he does through this final sector, keeping it nice and tight through turn 10. You can just see the rotation of the car working with him. Down into second, rising up in towards turn number 12. The sun kind of crosses the track, but it's not going to be too much of a difficulty for some of these drivers. And through turn 12 you just have to fly through 13 and 14, pick your line through there. Difficult to really see where the track should go, with the cones being slightly misleading, but keeping it very tight through 14, riding on that inside curve. Not something we've seen too much, but it's worked for the number 2 driver.
Over the line he goes. 6 wins in his PRL career. Wonder if this will be number 7 as Steve Baker will start from pole position in AM. We'll have a look at the starting grid here in a few minutes' time, as well as warm-up is just in its latter stages. Just under a minute to go in that, as we see Trepanier on pit lane. There he is in real life as well, smiling away, chatting away. No need to actually drive really in this warm-up session. I heard someone describe these kind of sessions to me the other day as really a cool-down session rather than warm-up, and it's very, very much the case. although having said that, about half of the field are out there nevertheless driving ready for this race, but the most important session is behind them. Now it's ahead of them, for the race, and that run down towards turn 1, which is going to be oh so important again, and hopefully it's as clean as it was in the Fixed Series.
And also going to be interesting just to see if our two teammates of Trepanier and Therio can work together in the same way that they did last week, put on a masterclass in the first half of the race. David Mendonca, put the can amongst the pigeons on the strategy, but they were still able to try and work together, and in the end getting Trepanier to the front of the field, which is exactly where he's going to start round number 4.
Yep, Advanced Motorsports teammates on the front, ahead of Emmett Lindqvist and Conor Wagner, who will be behind. Wagner with his teammate David Holland just behind him, though, and Sean Dickinson, the first of the SimCity Racing drivers, starting from 6th. 7th will be Kevin Simpson, ahead of David Mendonca for Solpec. Elliot Brzezinski, the first of the field in S Racing. BMW is down in 9th, ahead of Jason Allen in 10th. It's Luke Wallace and Jaden Conright sharing row 6. Steve Baker is the AM pole sitter, ahead of Matthew Brewer in 14th place. Then it's Nick Ludecki, Evan Mackay, Ethan Bass and Mitchell Green on the next few rows. A little bit further back, Eric Palacio, and then 3rd place in AM, Corey Cocone, with Ryan Reeves just outside the top 20. It's Peter Nodwell, Joshua Spears and Jeremy Littleton next up, followed by Noah Anderson and Chris Long sharing row 13. Drive Trainer Motorsports have 2 in the next 4. Miles Brown have got Chris Stewart and Devon Brock between he and his teammate Kyle Robertson. That rounds out the top 30. With Rich Calais 31st, ahead of Wesley Price in the orange and blue Porsche. It is Andrew Korachetsky ahead of Adam Henwood on row 17, with Calvin Mint and Richard Saavedra on row 18. Paul Espina and Bryce Bombeck round out the 38 drivers in the field here today for the Fixed Series. Last time we visited this circuit, it was 37 on the field, so I make that 1 more. So there we go. Down on the grid we go again. 79 Fahrenheit. That's pretty cool temperatures, and you need them around here because this circuit can rip your tyres apart.
Can, but the lower track temperatures may help them a touch, but it will be interesting to see if any tyres are taken. I think there was 1 tyre that was taken in by some drivers in the race last week, so interesting to see if we see that again, or maybe 2. It really depends on how the drivers are feeling, but running in trains like we might see may allow the drivers to control some of the variables a little bit more. But for the drivers at the front, the 2 Advanced Motorsport guys, they're going to be focusing on getting away at the front and just trying to work together to help each other out here. Into
pit lane comes the pace car, and the second race of the night, the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, is set to get underway. It's an all Porsche front row. Advanced Motorsports on the front row. Are they working together? Can they work together here at Barcelona? As immediately the green flag waves and it begins, Trepanier gives Teru a slipstream on the way down towards turn number 1. Can the others get down the inside and prevent this from happening? Here goes Lindqvist down the inside, pushed by Wagner. Oh, it's late on the brakes down the inside from Teru there, who holds on, and round the outside goes Sean Dickinson. A great start from him in the Mustang on the outside line, although he's going to get caught up now, getting freight trained maybe, with Conor Wagner on his inside through turn 3. Here he goes on the way towards the end of the opening sector and in towards turn number 4 as well. Side by side, a little bit more further backwards as Sean Dickinson hangs tough on the outside line again. Here goes Wagner. He can't quite get it done, and Dickinson's going to have to defend on the way towards turn 5. He does get there. 4th place for Dickinson, and a great opportunistic start from him. Yeah, incredible launch around the outside at turn number 1. Dickinson really showing that line really worked out for him. 3 drivers trying to fight for the inside line, but Dickinson went, well, I'll just go for the outside, as we see Budzinski and Holland off the road. Oh, into the wall, and that's going to be David Mendonca. Last week's P2 driver is going to be out of the race, realistically, in the opening lap. And Jaden Conright's off the road by the looks of things as well. Is it, or is it someone else? It's someone else, excuse me. Apologies for that. Free wide in towards turn 10. This is a much more chaotic start. That's Jaden Conright. He's making up places, not going backwards, and his teammate Nick Ludecki going for it as well. That's a big dive down the inside from Kevin Simpson, who's not pleased with the dive he was subject to on the way towards turn 10. This is a very different start to the race than the one we saw about an hour ago.
Yeah, a lot messier. A lot of drivers who are in that title fight scrapping over important positions. Trapani and Therio looking to just run away at the front, and the fighting behind has helped them do that. 1.3 seconds back to Emmett Glinkfist, but you can see in the background as they cross the line, they are 2 wide, maybe even 3 towards turn 1. They single filed it out into the braking zone, but here's Evan Mackay inside line in that neon yellow car. Can't find any moves, but in behind they're still fighting over P17 and 18.
I think Glinkfist has made an error because he's lost out to Sean Dickinson there, and he was comfortably ahead of him. Last camera shot we had. On board we go in the midfield. This is Victor Nobwell looking at Eric Palacio, Michelin Green, who just gets through there on the outside lines. Palacio, you can just see in the 39 just up ahead, although he goes wide. Peter Nobwell goes wide following him. And, he's side by side, 3 wide. Goodness me. Through turn 4. They'll sort that out very quickly because you don't really want to be doing that. It's Ryan Reeves in the AM38 Corvette. 35, I should say, that Corvette looking to get involved, but has to back out of it eventually, and they all figure themselves out. We'll have a replay reel for you in a few minutes' time when the opening moments of this race has calmed down a little bit, but there's plenty more to report on from this opening lap here in the Sprint Series, and there's more. It's in the background this time. One of the Corvettes of Chris Stewart, the SimCity Racing Corvette, has gone for a spin out of turn 9, which is an odd place to do it.
May have got a little bit of help there from a couple of drivers. May have just spun it on his own, misjudging in the same way that we saw Eric Terry Hart go for a spin in the Fixed Series. Through turn 12, Carl Robertson involved in this fight in that green and black car. They'll single file it out into 13 and 14. You'd think that turn 7 and 8, 13 and 14 are the only real places on the circuit where you're unlikely to see side-by-side action around this Barcelona circuit, and that's exactly what we've seen so far in this race. We've only been going about 4.5 minutes, but we've seen some incredible action all the way through so far. That's Evan Mackay. That's not Evan Mackay, that is Luke Wallace, who could be Evan Mackay's teammate, looking for a move. Steve Baker in behind, getting past Kevin Simpson in the championship leader in the AM category, getting himself away from Matthew Brower.
Yeah, that's yeah. Simpson's off, and Brower there is going to be off as well. The leader, Baker's also off. So there was contact there with the AM leader because Matthew Brower is now leading the race. Evan Mackay is going to get down the inside. There you can see the fluorescent yellow Corvette down the inside. He's not done the move yet, but he is side by side just in the background and cuts aggressively across the AM leader. There it's Corey Kokone in second place, looking for the position as well because the Porsche goes wide, and he should have let that go, Brower, because now he's under pressure for his own class win. Here he goes in towards turn 7 and 8, absolutely locked together, side by side. The Porsche will go up the curb in towards turn 9. He's still alongside just about. He's going to have to go up the curb again. Here, there's contact. Oh, he saves it just about, but he loses the lead. Corey Kokone now at the head of the field, and here come the pros. Eric Palacio on the outside line now, and the Corvette's going to go for it. There's contact, and there's more. Corey Kokone has very narrowly avoided a big hit there to the rear that almost certainly would have spelled the end of his AM lead.
Yeah, and Eric Palacio there, it was going deep, and it looked like he was about to rear-end a couple of the cars in front, lucky to avoid them all. I said less than a minute ago that you won't see side-by-side at turn 7 and 8, but there we go. Corey Sakone using it to great advantage through turn 13 as well. Somewhere else we wouldn't see side-by-side, we're seeing it already as they run their way into the final corner. But my, oh my, that was a big fist fight over the leading positions in the AM category. A couple of drivers, the likes of Evan Mackay, Mitchell Lee and Green, just trying to pick their way through and not get involved in some of these incidents, while drivers around fighting so hard, still side-by-side into the opening couple of turns. This is just not over yet, and I think this could be a theme that we'll see all the way through the race. Hard-fought battles.
Very hard-fought battles. This is Kevin Simpson going backwards again. He's got damage for sure. He has got damage for sure. I can see the front end is not looking good, and that overtake didn't look good for his future in this race either. Just side by side behind him is Carl Robertson and Adam Henwood. That's for 26th position, and Robertson benefits from that one, or prevails I should say, in the Corvette. Gains the place with just over 6 minutes gone, and maybe now we can just breathe for the first time. But goodness me, that was an aggressive start and a manic start. So much going on there. Don't even know where to begin with it all. This is all a group back, by the way, back from 12th position right the way down to 32nd, which, by the way, is currently held by Steve Baker, who was leading in the AM class. This is a replay reel of what's happened so far. Ethan Bass was the driver of the Mustang who didn't leave enough space on the outside there for whoever that was, and spun himself off into the grass and gravel, I'm afraid. This was down in towards turn number 12. as I hope they're not teammates and they're just in a similar colour livery there, because that was awkward. That was Wesley Bryce going backwards through turn 12. Paul Espina it was, down his inside. That was quite clumsy.
Yeah, it seems that they're not quite teammates. The patterns are slightly different, but looks remarkably similar. This was Chris Stewart getting a little bit of a tap around, similar to the incident that we saw just a moment ago down at that corner, but Stewart unable to hold it together. This is how he saw it, and yeah, getting a little bit of a tap, not having too much room on the inside there, and he will say that he deserved far more through that corner. This is what happened to Steve Baker. I think it's fair to say Steve Baker's been taken out there through turn 3.
I think so. I think you're right. Simpson just carted him off the road, put him in a wheelbarrow and said, go over there. And that's exactly what happened. I'm afraid this is Chris Stewart trying to recover. I'd imagine his tyres are on fire, and he can't turn like that. So spins around. This is Kyle Robertson. This has happened very recently. Robertson just made an overtake, but he's now put it. Oh dear, Romain Grosjean smokescreen style, and he's been hit as a result. Probably a good idea not to do that, but anyway, that's been and gone. Down towards turn 10 for Emmett Lindqvist. This is on Conor Wagner, and that was made to look very easy indeed.
Yeah, and Conor Wagner not having the best of runs there and looking to get back on Emmett Lindqvist, but Lindqvist looks like he's trying to get away very, very quickly indeed. Elliot Budzinski, a driver that really started the season well, didn't have the best of races last week, trying to come back to a little bit of form for himself and the Phil Dinez Racing team, who, he fights in the championship with alongside the likes of Jaden Conwright. So those guys looking to benefit because they come into this race 2 points ahead of Trapani and Ferrio in the advanced motorsport team, and they look in control at the moment. So it's really critical for Budzinski and Conwright to make their way through, and Lindqvist and Wagner fighting could help them out in that battle that they're having.
Yeah, what an interesting championship situation we've already got this season. Absolutely fantastic. Trapani is currently at 5th in the standings, but only 8 points behind. It's tied with Terrio as well. So they're both going to be gaining as things stand. Conwright and Wallace are the drivers there, 8 points behind the pair of them. Conwright is currently 8th, Wallace down in 11th, so they'll both lose enough points to lose the lead to those two. David Holland is also just 1 point ahead of Trapani and Terrio as well. And a spin for Nick Nudecki. That's going to give a position to Wallace, although that puts Phil Dinez Racing a bit further back in the team's championship. It's all going on here as Nick Nudecki gets back going again and will rejoin outside the top 20. David Holland, just to complete that point, is down in 7th. So as things stand, we've got an Advanced Motorsports 1-2 in the championship, and it's only furthered by that spin for Nick Nudecki.
Yeah, really not going well for Phil Dinez Racing the last couple of weeks. They looked so good in round 1 and round 2. Round 3 just suited Trapani and Ferrio, like a glove really, and they're doing it again here at Barcelona. And the 87 and the 89 working beautifully together to try and benefit not just themselves, but the team as well. And it's looking ever better for them with each passing week, and they are going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the rest of the season. For Conor Wagner, though, looking to get back on Emmett Lindqvist, not really able to keep it close enough to make a move down in towards turn 1. He's about 4.5 tenths, 5 tenths behind as they make their way onto the main straight. And we've seen that the slipstream just isn't enough for you to be able to make a move from that far back at the start of the straight. And you can see a couple of car lengths between them into the braking zone.
On board we go in the AM battle. This is with Matthew Brewer in the Porsche, just behind Corey Ciccone, who's leading the way. And as you may have noticed, there is no Steve Baker. He is nearly 20 positions behind, i.e. 20 points behind as things stand. But the only drivers within 20 points, Rich Cullen, Ryan Reeves, are not quite here. So at the moment, Steve Baker would be hanging on to his lead, but what an interesting AM situation we've also got here so far. Ciccone is 6th place in the standings, with the driver currently on board with Matthew Brewer down in 15th because he has missed a round so far. So these guys do need a good result, and the fact that Baker's far down is good for them, but still nowhere near enough, of course, for them to really get near him just for now, although we're only in week 4 of 9.
Yeah, we are. There's still time for drivers to make up points and make up time, but they're not going to really want to rest on their laurels and hope that they can get it together for the end of the season. You need to be able to get it done now. Interlagos next week, we've mentioned, very similar circuit. Then we head to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and it couldn't really get much different, where overtaking is going to be tricky. The hairpin's going to get busy, and it's long straights and heavy braking zones. This is more open, it's more flowing than that, and if you can get a good race here, we may be looking at some names to talk about in Interlagos as well, but it's all going to be up in the air by the time we head to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So, I mean, lots to happen still in this championship, but drivers having a good run here could really use some momentum into the next couple of weeks.
That was pretty rude. Bryce Brombeck, yep, I could see that happening from a mile away. And, oh dear, that's Paul Espino getting spun around as well as a result there. I'm afraid Espino has not covered himself in a load of glory so far in this race, and is currently running down in 35th. He's in the pit lane, in fact, getting some repairs, as Bombeck is as well after their incident. Kevin Simpson and David Mendonca are both out of the race. We didn't actually see Mendonca's crash on the opening lap again, but it's fairly clear to see what happened. Ran through the gravel, spun across the circuit and straight into the wall on the other side, other way towards turn 9. In hindsight, actually quite lucky he didn't get collected by anybody else, but he's certainly not going to now. He's out the race.
Yeah, and not going to be going any further forward in this one, which is disappointing for him, but big names are falling by the way. So David Mendonca, we saw right at the start of the race, getting that P2 last week, fighting for the win all the way through the last lap. He's one of the drivers that you could have looked at this week and said he may be battling for the win once again, not really making it out of the opening stages of the race. So big changes from last week to this, and that's what keeps us on our toes, that's what keeps the drivers on their toes, and that's what's making this a fantastic championship. A battle that we're seeing in both the Pro and the Am Championships. The fact that Corey Saccone is in a winning position, he's going to be very pleased about. Did a few races last season in the GT3 Series, and I believe he only did about 4 or 5, but he got a top 5, if not a podium, in all of them. So a very fast driver on his day, and doing a good job to hold off Matthew Brower for the time being.
Yeah, it's a stable battle now, and it's probably a good thing that we've got 1 or 2 of those. Now we're a third of the way into the race. It was a manic start, as we commented, and now we've just settled down a little bit, which is good. Down in towards turn 1, they will remain single file. Just behind them, there is a battle going on between Joshua Spears and Chris Long. That's for 17th place. Side by side, and the Mustang, well, I thought was going to prevail with the inside line, but it's not quite going to be so easy. But in the end, it will be. Oh, goodness, that was close. Just behind them, Noah Anderson trying to get involved and follow Joshua Spears through. And, well, you can see why. The 2 of them working together a little bit here, the 2 Mustangs, but he's going to have to do the work himself now, Anderson. Long goes a bit wide. Round the outside is the 3rd place Am driver, by the way, looking to just hang on to points. And then just behind him is Eric Palacio, who's dropped down the field, of course, after going wide into the gravel at turn 10 a few laps ago. And he stays behind, but that was a battle that had disaster written all over it at turn 3. But thankfully, Chris Long just gave enough room to Noah Anderson there, and they can all continue on.
Yeah, Noah Anderson getting a little bit of help from his teammate to really benefit him through the move, and they are starting to try and eke themselves away as they get towards turn number 10. Move in the offing though, inside line maybe, no, thinks better of it. In this battle, Chris Long still holding on to P19. Eric Palacio, I mean, he's maybe got a couple of flashbacks when he looked for the move to the inside at turn 10 there, and he's not going to make the same mistake twice.
Just over a quarter of an hour gone in this race. Vincent Trapanier still leads by just over a second now ahead of Sim Ontario. I mean, there's only so much working together the Advanced Motorsports Porsches can actually do here. I'll take your point about Indianapolis 1 week ago, but I feel like that is an easier place to do it than it is here. I know that the drivers in the fixed race said slipstream was relatively important, but you know, it's not a draft track by any means like Le Mans was, or Monza as well. It's a bit different. I think less down to teamwork, the fact they're 1 and 2 at the moment, and more down to the fact they are just quicker than the rest with track position over the rest as well.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that at all. I mean, Trapani and Therio last week were probably the quickest drivers on the racetrack. Mendonca was able to attach himself to them, but they have been the class of the field the last couple of weeks. Qualifying pace really does show that, and they have been able to get away. They were helped a little bit, of course, off of the start with the battling that we did see for P3 with Sean Dickinson and then Lingfist involved in all of that, but they've just built that gap every single lap, even if it's just by a tenth every single lap. They've built it to get away from the rest of the field, and it is they are sitting very pretty at the moment. It's nearly a second between Trapani and Therio, so I don't know really how much benefit the 89 is going to be able to get from his teammate in the 87, but doing a stellar job regardless. Both of the drivers who will almost certainly, unless something catastrophic happens, will lead the team's championship coming out of this race, and also have a very good shout to put themselves 1 and 2 in the drivers' championship in this race. Reminder that they come into this race tied on points, which means whether Trapani wins or Therio wins, you'd think that they're going to be the championship leader going into Interlagos.
Certainly, through the final quarter for the AM lead again here. Excuse me. Koikakona just ahead of Matt Brewer on the way down towards turn number 1. And they will stay as they are by the looks of things. Oh, Brewer just looks, doesn't go for it. We're at that stage now where eyes will start to turn to pit lane, and the stops will begin pretty shortly. We're about 2 laps away from half distance as far as laps are concerned. They should be able to go another 3 or 4 after that nevertheless, but it's going to factor into the minds of everybody now, and we are going to start to see those stops be made, and maybe it will make or break this battle for the win in AM, because it is very much the two of them far ahead of the rest. The next AM driver is Chris Long. He's a good 7 seconds, 8 seconds behind these two.
Yeah, a long way back for him in P3, but Corey Saccone and Matthew Brow are really just thinking about themselves at the moment, aren't they? I don't think they're going to be worried about losing this unless they start to really fight heavily, and we have seen that so far in this race, haven't we? Drivers really going at it, no room left on the table, and they're not going to give any scraps to their competitors either. Matthew Brower looks content to sit behind Corey Saccone for the time being, but with Mitchell Ian Green right in behind, the pro driver maybe looking to pick off these two AM drivers if he can. But at the moment, the two leading AM drivers look pretty solid in their pace, and they don't really look like they're going to be fighting anytime soon unless there's a mistake from one of them.
Absolutely. As through the final couple of corners they go. And it looks like it's going to be as you were out of the final turn. Casper, it's not a good run anyway, I'm afraid, onto the front straight. I think he's got to be more worried about Mitchell Ian Green and just keeping an eye behind him here, making sure he doesn't get split apart from the Corvette in front. Otherwise, it could be trouble for the driver of the Porsche. Breaks a little bit later on the way towards turn 1. Sun giving them a little bit of grief now through these first couple of corners. They're just flashing through the trees there. It will be properly below the horizon very shortly, but just giving them a tiny bit of grief because it is late evening in this race. The last evening round until the finale at Sebring, where the sun will be going down on the season in Florida, starting at 6:30 in the end of November, is certainly going to end the season in a dark fashion for the GT3 series, as far as the atmosphere is concerned. Anyway. It'll be morning starts for the remainder and a midday start-ish for Interlagos in 1 week's time. So the only real night driving of the season will come at Sebring, or the longest period anyway of night driving will certainly come at Sebring for the final round of the championship. As down in towards turn 10 they go again. Brewer close. Decent exit off of 11 here, but does he have a look at the inside at 12? He certainly doesn't. He's hounding Koikakona though and almost willing him to make a mistake.
Yeah, and I think Matthew Brown is hoping on the mistake for the time being, because it doesn't really seem that he's got enough pace to make the move on the circuit. Difficult to overtake more, I think it's fair to say, in this Sprint Series than we saw in the Fixed Series. That may have something to do with drivers and may be able to set up their cars a little bit differently, but maybe this is the chance for the number 62 car towards turn 1. The little dip down towards the opening turn means that maybe able to get a bit of a run using some gravity, but Matthew Brower gets close, but not close enough to make a move on Corey Saccone, and they'll run their way through turn 3 once again. The sun really starting to set now in the middle of the corner. They still trail Evan Mackay, and Mackay is up in P11. Good result for him, but I hope no one's shouting through his door today.
I don't know whether we've got to it is him, isn't it, with the open door every day. Don't know why, but there you go. He decides to. At least there's no dead body on his bed today, but at least as far as we're aware, look like that. If you don't know what we're referencing, I understand that sounds a bit weird. From the Monza round, the opening round of the season, it was weird. Anyway, he's currently running in 11th, just ahead of these guys, and I think being caught actually, and I can't tell whether that would be a hindrance or a help to the AM leader. Would it help with drafting, or would it just be someone to get in his way while Matthew Brower is trying to get through? I don't really know. There is Mackay, and yep, he's still got his door open.
There he is, yeah, indeed. I couldn't do that, but at least we can't. Maybe he's turned the camera a bit so we can't see if anybody's hiding on the bed or not. Yeah, very light as well. I was talking about this last week with David Haynes actually, because we had Evan Mackay and then we put up Vincent Trepanier immediately after, and you can see the light difference between how the drivers sit. Evan Mackay's even got a beige t-shirt and white headphones on. Everything is bright. For Vincent Trepanier, it's all quite dark, and it's interesting just to see the differences for drivers. There you go for Vincent Trepanier. The only light in the room is his sim rig, and you can see some almost some scary stairs behind him. It's almost like you don't know where they lead.
Someone in YouTube chat saying that that they give Evan a hard time about the dead body all the time in the SRT Discord, so that's good. That's good to know. Hopefully it's not at our expense. But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the way, if you are a PRL driver and you're listening to this, join the Zoom call when you're racing, because we like to see what's going on while you're racing around. So do join the Zoom call, and we promise not to be too disparaging, because that might put people off. On board with Miles Brown in 21st. This is back in the AM class, and this is a battle for the podium. Chris Long in the McLaren right ahead here as they head towards the pit stops, and an important battle here that Miles Brown is looking to be on the right side of.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting battle to the end. Interesting that we haven't really seen many pit stops either in this race, so that could shake up the order a touch. But with 16 minutes to go, time is starting to ebb away from these drivers, well over halfway, and with only, you're looking at 11 laps left of this race, so we are starting to see that evaporate away. We will have passed 100 laps race at this circuit in PRL GT3s at least throughout this race, just to show how many times we have been here. But Chris Long, quite frankly, doesn't care about that. He cares about Miles Brown right behind him, looking for a move. Top 20 could be a pretty good place to be, especially considering that we had 39 drivers into this race. So top 20, pretty much exactly top half.
I love having the amount of stats we do for these PRL broadcasts, by the way. We must say thanks to Patrick Cowgill, who collates them all and has done some very clever things that I don't understand with maths and spreadsheets to get an almighty amount of stats for us. So I thank you to him and everyone else who's contributed to giving us all these numbers that we like to talk about throughout these PRL broadcasts on RaceSpotTV. This is the battle for 20th place. It's just behind, of course, that group with Jeremy Littleton, Joshua Spears, Noah Anderson and Eric Palacio. Those guys were getting a little bit close earlier on. We were on board with Noah Anderson as he was making the overtakes in that Mustang. There he is, just in the 30, just ahead of Eric Palacio. You can see here in the SRTE Unit Sim Sports Corvette, and he's looking to be aggressive here. Don't forget, Palacio dropped down the field pretty quickly earlier on after going wide at this very corner, and you can see that he's looking to regain places because he does look a little bit quicker.
does, just not able to use that pace at the moment, and the two teammates in front working very nicely together. I have to say, on the stats, I was really disappointed. I was really excited getting into Indianapolis, and of course I was, without you there, and I was thinking, I can throw out the stats, and I looked up and down and I realised we hadn't been to Indianapolis in the GT3s. I didn't have the, I didn't have the plethora of numbers that I could throw out during the stream, but pleased that we have them back here. And I know that Interlagos has been used as well in the past. We should be getting, or has it? It may not have been actually. But we're going to get some nice numbers throughout the rest of the season. And you and I do love our stats, and I think it's nice to throw a couple random ones out during the broadcast, isn't it?
That's very funny. You wait all season for me to be gone, and chance ruined. Anyway, on board with Matthew Brewer again in the Porsche. With 13.5 minutes to go, we've got about a third of this race. The middle third of this race has gone quiet. I think that's fair to say, Tara, but it's about to get very loud. And well, I say that they're about to all stop. That doesn't sound very loud, but they're about to go in the pit lane for their stop, and then things will get very loud on the other side, I suspect. So they're all sort of feels like we're all waiting for that moment, really.
Yeah, it's surely coming soon. I mean, we are really ticking down the time now. We are well over halfway through the race, nearing 3/4 of the way through the race, and drivers, nobody boxing just yet. I think we're really going to see chaos on pit road when the first couple of drivers come in. When we see Vincent Trapani and Simon Theriault show as being in the pits, I think we're going to see a procession behind them as well, and it's going to be as busy as it could be through there. But for the time being, everyone's still carrying on and holding firm, and we're only really going to have a 10-minute sprint to the end once we see what happens with those pit stops, and it may throw up the race a little bit. But as we see Luke Wallace in the first driver in the top 16 to come in, the fact that we're going to have a narrow pit window means that we may not see that much differential of the timing tower and the order pre-stop to after stop.
Just tied with Jaden Conwright at the top of the point standings at the start of today, Luke Wallace, and he will now drop the long way down, of course, and hope to regain those places a little bit later on. I think the big thing for him is about coming out in clean air. Has he managed to do that? If he can get ahead of Calvin Mint here, I think he will be in the money, and he'll be looking good. Out the lane he goes. I don't know if he's going to get up to speed quickly enough here. I know you can't see this at home, but I'm just monitoring it for you as we go. I think he is just about going to do enough to stay ahead. So Luke Wallace has got about 5 seconds of clean air ahead of him, and there he is. Nobody ahead of him. 9.9 seconds in the box. That's solid. Now he's got to move. He's got to have a good outlap.
Does, and this is going to be absolutely critical for him. Clean air might help him out, there's no doubt about that, but with the ebbing light, or the light ebbing away from us, is that going to make any difference? You wouldn't think so. It's the same for everybody, but Luke Wallace may not enjoy having some sun in his eyes if that's the case. Through the final couple of corners, Trapanier is coming into the pit lane. Theriault surely is going to follow him in. Yes, he will. And is this where we see the invasion of the pit lane by pretty much the entire field? I think that it will be, judging by the pictures that we're seeing.
This suggests that this is sort of the limit of where the fuel can take you here in the GT3s, because they're mostly in the positions they qualified in. It should be an easy entrance here. You should be able to see your lollipop man fairly easily. Although Dickinson's obviously made a couple of places, makes things difficult for Wagner. That was quite a deep bit on the brakes. There's a Mackay making his way in as well. Trapani's already gone. He will be not leading. There are some who've gone around. However, he will be ahead of those who matter in this race. Ahead of Dickinson and Theriault as well, who make their way out. Emmett Lindqvist ahead of Conor Wagner. Then Elliot Brzezinski, Jason Allen, David Holland and Jaden Conwright. Where's Luke Wallace? He seems to be exactly where he was. I think we're all as we were, actually, after the pit stops.
Yeah, because so many drivers coming into the pit lane at once, there's not too much differential on the pit stop time. Everybody has pretty much come out in the same order there. You could see F. Mackay going into turn one, getting forced back into his chair as he broke, and it didn't look like he was too pleased with what he was saying there, but I am not gifted with the ability to lip read, so I could not tell you exactly what he said, but he will be running on his own again in P16. Luke Wallace is right behind Jaden Conwright and wouldn't mind a move, but turn 5 isn't going to help him with that, as he will stay behind in P13.
Hopefully it's not similar to what Mark Halen was saying immediately as we cut to him off. That wasn't great. Anyway, on we go with Luke Wallace, who's right behind Jaden Conwright here. This is a couple of drivers, of course, who were tied on points at the start of the day. They're going to finish down at the lower end of the top 10, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it will be a relatively big hit in points. And the thing that concerns me more, especially for Comright, is the sort of direction of travel for the BMW. Now, there are almost no BMWs in the Fixed Series, not a well-fancied car. There are very few of them here as well, but Wilderness Racing have taken them on. Very strong at Le Mans and Monza, where the straight line speed aspects were really paramount. However, at Indianapolis and Barcelona, they've been struggling a little bit more. I know it was third place for Comright at Indianapolis, and so maybe that point doesn't stand up quite so well. But you know, Brzezinski was well down at Indianapolis, and Comright seems to be really struggling here. Brzezinski is not in the top 5 either. It seems to be a direction of travel for the BMW that they could really do without, and I don't see how they really put an end to this, because they've selected their car and they've got to live with it.
If that is a running theme, looking at the next few rounds of the championship, Interlagos isn't going to be great for the straight line speed. Of course, you've got that long straight towards turn 1, but the middle sector is entirely medium and slow speed corners. We go to the Gilles Villeneuve circuit, a couple of straights there, but again, really important to get some good cornering speed there. Watkins Glen maybe could be a little bit better for them, but it's very similar in terms of characteristics here. The straights aren't too long, corners are very long, and downforce is critical. And then Fuji and Sebring, again, it's not the kindest for the straight line speed, so it may not be working out too well for Wilderness Racing, and we may see them ebb away in the championship, but for the time being they're still in the battle, and we might see them come back to form in a week or two, but for the time being it does look like it's very much advantage Vincent Trapanier and Simon Theriault and advantage Porsche.
Yeah, indeed. As we go on board with Corey Kokona here, looking at Matthew Brewer, so there has been a change here in the pit stops. I was about to say in Pro there haven't been any changes, but in AM there has been 7 minutes to go. Might be about 5 laps here because of how quick they are these days, and so plenty of chances for the Corvette to work its way back through again, but Michelin Green parking himself right ahead of Brewer is not going to help. I don't think Brewer will like to get through at him quickly as possible and try and put distance between himself and the second place driver in AM.
Yeah, and Evan Mackay is attaching himself to the battle of this little train as well. Mackay was running on his own for quite a while, but all of a sudden he's in a battle for what could be P11, especially if Michelin Green and Matthew Brower start fighting down in towards turn 1. Not enough of a run though for the number 62 car to be able to duck and dive his way towards P11. Applying a lot of pressure. Corey Saccone can't afford to lose too much ground either, because he wants to stay as close as he can to his rival Brower in the AM category, as there will be a chance, especially if Brower fights with Green. Sweeping around the outside, and that's Littleton on Anderson. That's a great move. Anderson far too tight to the inside at turn 1.
Side by side for 7th, Jason Allen holding on from David Holland round the outside, and just up ahead of them it's a lap car that doesn't really know where to go. In towards turn 7, Allen will be screaming at him to get out of the way here as SimCity Racing look to hold on to 2 drivers in the top 10 here. Again, the lap traffic still in the way on the way towards turn 9. This is inviting Jaden Comright into the fight, and here goes the Corvette to the left hand side. Now it needs to get on the brakes and get out of the way, and certainly does. Here goes Allen on the defensive from David Holland, who can't go for a dive in towards turn 10. This will be unbelievable pressure for Jason Allen in these final 5 minutes.
Yeah, you struggle to really see how he's going to be able to hold on with still so long left in this race. Still a handful of laps for us still to run, and David Holland is just throwing out all of the tricks to try and get in Jason Allen's mirrors, try and force a little bit of a mistake to make the overtake easier. But you can see how close he's running through the final corner. Very wide from Jason Allen. That's going to open the door to maybe 1 or 2 drivers. David Holland's certainly going to be looking for this towards turn 1.
Allen won't even bother going on the defensive. His run's still remarkable, despite the fact he's been in the gravel. Here goes Holland, late on the brakes, a lot later, and he'll get through into 7th position ahead of Jason Allen. Then it's Jaden Comright in the BMW, followed by Luke Wallace, who's looking for a way through here as well. On the way towards turn 3. Through they go, just less than 5 minutes to go. Should be 4 laps to go, very possibly, as they end the first sector. Yeah, I think there's 4 laps to go left in this race, so plenty of time for positions to be gained and lost here. This is really the only battle inside the top 10. Lindqvist and Wagner are not really that close for the moment. Lindqvist is just hanging on.
Yeah, and for if you are Jason Allen in this battle, you're really going to be concerned about Jaden Conwright and Luke Wallace. You know how much pace Jaden Conwright has. He's the championship leader coming into this evening's worth of racing. I don't think he'll be the championship leader coming out of it, but that's hearsay. When you look at the points coming into the race in your head, Jaden Conwright is the man to beat. So if you're Jason Allen, the one man particularly that you want to keep behind you is likely going to be Conwright in the 88. But Jason Allen, maybe not with the pace that he was hoping for, could come under a little bit of pressure from Conwright and Luke Wallace, who's got into this battle after gaining towards the back of the group, much like we see Evan Mackay gaining to the back of the group in the group just behind these guys. So a little bit of synergy there between the battle for 6th and for 11th, or 7th and 11th I should say. But through the final corner we go. It looks like Wallace is a little bit closer, or sorry, I should say Allen's a little bit closer to Conrad than he is to Holland.
I think they're all two spaced apart on the way towards turn 1 this time. Wallace is certainly not close enough. He's just a cameraman, if you like, down the way towards turn number 1. Look at that gap the Mustang's been able to get. I wonder whether Holland is just a little bit quicker than Jason Allen here, and this could be a gap that continues to grow now to the line.
And there's not much time left. I mean, we've seen David Holland able to get away a touch, even with the advantage that Jason Allen will have with the slipstream. So you'd bet on him really to be able to get away here. Unless he makes a big mistake, I think he's going to be safe in P7. And really, it's going to be down to Jason Allen and Jaden Conwright to sort it out for P8, especially if we see Allen lose some of that effect of the slipstream. And that'll give a big advantage to Jaden Conwright in his... but Conrad himself got to be careful of Wallace, because Wallace looks very strong in the opening half of the lap.
It's not really where you are going to make the moves here, unfortunately. He needs to be strong through this final sector to give himself a chance in towards either tier at 10 or turn 1 as well. Looks like we are going to get another 2 laps then. Vance Trapani is just making his way through the final couple of corners right now. This is the battle for 4th place, just behind that. And Wagner will be probably pleased for the next couple of laps. There's the obsolete chicane through the final corners. Wagner with a decent line through there. Lindqvist knows it immediately. Moves it over to the right-hand side. Moves it into a defensive shape. Here goes Wagner. It's surely going to be on the outside for the Mustang. He's not really got the speed here. He's going to be on the brakes, and he is late on the brakes. Round the outside for Conor Wagner, and this could be 4th position. Lindqvist needs to hang it out there, turn 2 this time, and he does. Inside at 3, and now it's Wagner's turn on the outside for the 2nd time, and he can't do it. He's going to have the door slammed in his face, but look at the run he's going to have. Lindqvist will need to move it over again here, and he does. Wagner moves it as well, because they're both getting through on a lap car. And he's still looking for a way through. Down towards turn 5 shouldn't happen. And Lindqvist hangs on. He's just got one more lap now. Lap and a half, basically, for him to hang on to 4th place.
Conor Wagner and David Holland, both of them look very strong at the moment. Maybe there's a little bit of a theme there. Maybe the cars have been set up between the two of them to maybe favour these late race stages. But Conor Wagner looking so racy on the back of Emmitt Lindqvist. He's only really got a couple of good overtaking opportunities left to run, as the white flag will fly the next time that they find the timing being. But he is all over the rear end. Is he going to go for the 10? He is. Big send to the inside. Can he get it stopped? He can. Will he get the exit out of the middle of the corner? It looks like he's going to be locked side by side, but turn 12 should favour Emmitt Lindqvist. And a little bit of a mistake. That'll cost him the chance at P4, you'd think, to the end of the race.
Yeah, that's it now. Wagner just entered too quickly, didn't he, at turn 12 there, and lost the rear end. Jaden Conwright now is under pressure from Luke Wallace here, so Jason Allen's going to get breathing space here, and he's going to finish in 8th by the looks of things. It's going to be Luke Wallace versus Jaden Conwright now on the final lap. The two tied series leaders at the start of today both have to come in. Goodness me, a major catastrophe for the two series leaders. After 3 rounds, Jaden Conwright and Luke Wallace have either underfueled or they've hit the incident limit. Now, which is it? It looks like they're taking a drive-through to me. Have they both got enough off-tracks and contacts to drive through pit lane? They certainly have. And now they'll both get back out again outside of the top 10. They'll be 13th and 14th. So it's not that many positions lost, but it's a catastrophe, really. Eric Palacio gets just behind them. I wonder whether they made contact with each other to give each other a drive-through. That's unbelievable.
I would suggest that would be the case. We did see that Jaden Conrad was a little bit further back from Jason Allen than we saw him the last time around. So there could have been a little bit of contact between them, but drama for both of them, gutting for both of them. Jaden Conrad coming in as the championship leader. He'll be lucky to be in the top 3 in the championship when we head to Interlagos. That's the volatility of this series at the moment. Dramatic stuff, but it's not going to affect the guys at the front. Just going to give a little bit of a benefit to the guys like Mitchell Ian Green, Matthew Brower, Corey Sagone, and Evan Mackay.
Right, that was extraordinary. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. The 2 series leaders coming in for drive-throughs at the same time, but there you go. Anyway, Vincent Trepanier is going to take advantage, and Advanced Motorsports have taken great advantage today. Simon Thuriot and Vincent Trepanier started the day tied on points. Well, at the end of the day, Trepanier is going to take another victory, and he'll be the series leader as well. A fantastic 23rd career win for Vincent Trepanier in his PRL career. And who's going to win in AM? It looks like Matthew Brewer's going to get it, and behind Mitchell Ian Green loses a couple of places for whatever reason, but it's going to be 9th for the AM winner. One of the best placings for an AM winner all season long, and it's Matthew Brewer who takes the win by a very small margin in the end.
Has Green run out of fuel coming up towards the line? He's dropping positions. And yes, he has run out of fuel to the line. Where's he going to cross the line in the end? It's going to be P14, I believe, or just about behind Peter Notwell and ahead of Eric Palacio. But Mitchell Ian Green, a top 10 in the end. It flashed before his eyes, but wasn't able to convert on it as they all pile across the line. Dramatic towards the end of that race. But for the 2 guys at the front running in formation at the end, I mean, we didn't have to talk about them all race long, did we? They were so comfortable out in front that we talked about them at the start, we talked about them at the pit stops, and we talked about them at the end. And for a race winner, that's exactly the kind of race you want to have.
A perfect race for Advanced Motorsports. 1 and 2, both in the championship now, and indeed in that race. A fantastic drive for Vincent Trepanier, who takes the race victory here at Barcelona. He's going to do some donuts to celebrate as well, and why not, for the winner of round number 4. Doesn't look delighted, but I'm sure he is in the car, smiling and chatting away. He wins by 4/10 of a second in the end, as Simon Thuriot, with Sean Dickinson in 3rd place. Emmett Lindqvist and Conor Wagner round out the top 5, with Elliot Patinsky moving up to 6th place in the end there. David Holland and Jason Allen stayed 7th and 8th out of the AM winners. Matthew Brewer and Corey Kokone finishing 1st and 2nd there. 11th was Evan Mackay ahead of Luke Wallace, Peter Notwell and Mitchell Ian Green. Of course, Wallace having dropped back with that drive-through. Where is Conrad? He's dropped down to 17th place. So Palacio, Joshua Spears, then Jaden Conrad, who's had a bit of a disaster there. Noah Anderson, Miles Brown and Jeremy Littleton round out the top 20. At 21st was Devon Brock ahead of Adam Henwood. Ethan Bass recovered from his lap 1 incident to finish 23rd. Steve Baker finishes 24th, which is 16 behind the AM winner, but still will hold on to the points lead. Chris Long just behind him in 25th, just ahead of his teammate Rich Cully. Calvin Mint finishes 27th ahead of Dakota Knapp, Carl Robertson, and Wesley Bryce, the first driver a lap down. Richard Saavedra was 5 down. Nick Ludecki finished 8 down. Andrew Czarskiewicz finished 9 down with Chris Stewart. It was Ryan Reed finishing 25th ahead of Bryce Bombeck and Paul Espina, who both retired 17 laps down. Kevin Simpson and David Mendonca and the 2 Porsches were the first to retire in that race. Let's bring in Vincent Trepanier now, the race winner from round 4 of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. And Vincent, welcome in. Good to have you with us. 4/10 of a second ahead of his teammate in the end. You must be delighted with that race.
Hey, good. It was a fun race tonight. I know we have a very good pace during the practice, so the quality was also really awesome for me and for Simon. So we are happy to get the podium P1 and P2 for us. I'm happy for that.
I mean, it's 2 wins in a row now for you, 2 weeks back-to-back for you. How does that make you feel going into the rest of the season, in confidence-wise, with still 5 rounds to go and a very competitive field?
Yeah, we know that the 2 first round of the season was will be very tough for us with the Porsche on Le Mans, and the other track it was Monza. But I know after the other race, the Porsche is going to be better. So yeah, we are how to say it? We are confident.
Yes.
We are we're confident to to go up in the championship. So yep, we hope. We're gonna hope.
Yeah, I think you'll be in the lead, by the way, the drivers after this. But anyway, that's just my maths. Congratulations on the win tonight at Barcelona, and thanks for coming to chat to us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. And thank you to Advanced Motorsport, Advanced Sim Racing, my mate Simon, and all the PRL organization, and you, RaceSpot, for the broadcast. It's always a pleasure to see it. So, yep.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Congratulations. That's such a funny there, the winner tonight in Barcelona. I was trying to find his teammate there, but he's not here for the moment. We will go with Sean Dickinson next up, though, because we haven't got P2, so we'll jump down straight to P3. Welcome in, Sean, as well. Good to have you with us. After finishing third here tonight, was that unexpected, expected for you? How are you feeling after that one?
I felt like car was good, the setup was on point, and I got really lucky at the start and was really surprised to hold out. So very happy to be able to stay in P3 for that one.
How has the season been so far for SimCity Racing? I know it's been a bit of a roller coaster month or so for the team as a whole, but 5th and 8th in the team standings going into this race. You yourself were 10th in the driver's standings. This by far your best result of the season so far. How has it been generally for the team and for yourself in the opening 4 rounds?
Yeah, we've had our ups and downs. The first few tracks weren't the best of mine, you know. Our team struggled a little bit through some of them. There were, off tracks, couple people getting wrecked out, got some hardware issues, but overall I think we're making our stride a little bit right now, so we should see some good results here in the coming weeks.
Certainly hope so. Congratulations on 3rd place in the podium tonight, Sean, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. Sean Dickinson there, 3rd place tonight in Pro. Let's go to AM now, where Matthew Brewer is the race victor. Welcome in, Matthew. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the win tonight in AM. That must have been a pretty tense final few laps for you with Corey, right behind you. How was it? How are you feeling now that it's all over?
Feeling good, feeling relieved. About time. The whole race, since the start, we were a pack, just following each other. I don't know who it was, whoever qualified P1 and M just crashed out, I think at the 2nd or 3rd lap, and then took the lead, and then P2 kind of just got in front and just been following the whole race, just saving fuel, and then passed him in the pits, took the lead and kept it.
How is it having all of the other pros involved in that battle? Because especially towards the end there was the likes of Mitchell Green around, although he looked like he ran out of fuel there at the end. Evan Mackay was lurking as well. How distracting, if at all, is it to have pros involved in your AM leading fight there?
I try my best not to look at that. I keep an eye on whether it's an M or a pro to know how hard I need to fight, but I felt the guy in front was... he was just lifting a bit. I knew he was about to run out of fuel. He's been lifting the past 3 laps. And it kind of got me scared at the end because it got the guy behind us close a bit. Just was trying to find a gap and didn't find one. Fortunately, at the end, he ran out of fuel and you go around him. But honestly, just thinking about the pros, it's not really my top priority. I try and keep an eye on it, but don't really want to put my mind too much on it and stress about it.
Well, congratulations on keeping on top of all that tonight and winning in AM, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew Brewer, there, the winner in AM. Ahead of Corey Cocconi, who finishes in 2nd place and joins us now. Welcome in as well, Corey. Good to have you with us. Are you a little bit disappointed you couldn't quite get the win, or are you pleased with 2nd place?
Given how my season has been going, I'm thrilled with 2nd place.
Tell us a little bit about the sort of preparation as a result of the season so far. Then you say it's not been as good as you would have hoped. How did you remotivate yourself and prepare for this one?
Well, honestly, I wasn't even going to do this race. I decided about 10 minutes, probably 10 till 9, that I was going to hop on. And I maybe got 20 laps of practice all week long. And I'm glad I did it. I mean, this right here just got me right back into it and looking forward to next week.
So a bit more practice for next week.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us, Corey, and congratulations on second place here tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That was Corey Ciccone there, second place in after doing almost no practice, so fair play to him. Miles Brown finished in third place and also joins us now. Welcome in, Miles. Third place, just hanging on from Devon Brock and others who gave you a bit of a hard time towards the end. How are you feeling after that race?
Man, I feel pretty good. You know, I mean, I don't know. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. I mean, we started really far back, and I really wasn't sure how the race was going to go. Like, I felt like we had good pace, but for some reason just couldn't put a lap in qualifying. So I moved up, like, I want to say like close to 8 spots. So I'm pretty happy with the race. I think we just ran a smart race and kept out of trouble. There was a couple good times where the car did not want to do what I wanted it to do, but overall, I think we managed pretty good, so can't really complain, and happy to get that podium. So.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying where you do and starting where you do as an AM obviously puts you in the midfield to the start of the race. And I've noticed this race start was particularly chaotic as well, especially compared to the Fixed Series, where there were almost no incidents in the opening lap. There were plenty of them in the Sprint Series. How difficult is it to stay out of trouble, and how difficult was it today to stay out of trouble on this opening lap when you're basically consigned to starting from the midfield almost no matter what you do?
Yeah, it's really tough, you know, it's really tricky because, I mean, like, you really have to play it smart, but, like, you don't want to be too conservative either. You got to make moves, and, you know, it's just like go-karting, you know, where you got to keep moving forward or else somebody's going to pass you. So, I mean, it's really just about just trying your best to move forward and just stay focused. Every mistake you make, just forget about it and keep going, you know? So, but yeah. That's really all you can do is just keep pushing, pass or get past.
All right, congratulations on the podium tonight, Miles, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much, Miles Brown there, third place in AM. Well, that just about does it from us here at Barcelona. That is a good couple of races tonight, Dara, but we'll be back again in 1 week's time for Interlagos. Should be equally as fun in these GT3 cars.
I'm really looking forward to Interlagos. Should be, as you mentioned, fun. I'm looking forward to turn 1, turn 4, a track where we get lots of action. I will say, though, before we go, with that good performance in the end from Vincent Trepanier, do you know where that puts him in the all-time top 10s list, Ewan?
I'm not looking, by the way. I will be. I will stay to tomorrow. I'm going to say that puts him 12.
32nd.
Oh dear.
He's got a very, very good winter. He's got a very good winter top 10 ratio. I think it's something like 1 in every 3 top 10s is a win for him.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, 91st for those of you who are not looking for a ranking. Anyway, we'll have more stats for you in a week's time. And, of course, me and Darryl will be back again in a couple of weeks' time for the GT3 Series. If you want to see these cars alongside some hypercars in 2 days' time, then forget about Thursday night football or baseball and come join us instead. That's it from RaceSpotTV tonight, though. I've been Ian Leary alongside Darryl Thacker and Hugo Louise behind the cameras. We'll be back in 1 week's time for coverage from 8:30 Eastern from Interlagos for round 5 of the PRL GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series. Until then, it's goodbye for now.